He's challenging.
Exactly.
Even rude.
Setting up the board and figuring out what's on the page of his book, then he gets... John should try the same.
At first sight. Paris is a city I've come to find my love.
Honestly, off my rocker, but follow me, I'm ahead of the game. I'm ahead of the game. I'm only if I remember my name. I remember I'm ahead now. Well, I'm ahead now. I'm ahead of the game. I'm ahead of the
Semifinals of the second. We'll be looking for the next World Championship to sort through. I hope you can see us.
We missed the which is of course not a great relent and actually let us be against. We came to the sort of the tentative conclusion that we're seeing the position they have.
One of the main moves there are style played fairly quickly.
Yeah, late last year, obviously a blitz game on. Kind of expecting an issue. Spoiling your own structure is also, I think, Queen E2, which is more of an active role. And Dmitry just drops it back all the way to B7, which I think H4, H5 always seems very logical in these types of positions. I was wondering if we're supposed to start with long castles here, but so it's more flexible. What do you think?
I don't know. It's a weird position. If I go here, I don't know.
As you were pointing out, yeah, the H1 rook gets... Yeah, I was looking at some options, so yeah, we're playing slowly. But if we're playing slowly, it also gets G8. It's not that horrible.
Yeah, it's very similar to this line in spirit, but it does look like it's a better version for black, where black.
And this is maybe why the machine was suggesting we should still be going for d takes e3, even though here it's completely unforced. Yeah. Very, very interesting, very non-standard position. Should be quite fun to watch. But I suspect Andrekian is not horribly unhappy with how things are going.
How could he be? It looks like Anish is out of book. The position doesn't look too bad. That's pretty much all you can hope for after 10 moves with black against one of the world's premier players and theoreticians.
Yeah. And in our second semifinal, the position is reasonably well known to me, or at least it was until one ply ago. Once again, the Bishop C4 Grunfeld makes an appearance. Somebody played this against MVL in the round. Was it you? It was you, Yangi, right? I think.
Yeah.
But
that was castles. It was the main. The main stuff castles B6 with that MVL likes. And Rapport tries this move Rook C1.
Yeah, Rook C1 specifically with the idea of meeting Queen A5 check with Rook C3, which is what we're watching right now, is a kind of a newfangled way of playing this line. And it surprised me quite a bit by how serious it was when I was preparing the Chessable course, I remember. And I ended up giving the E5 reply to Rook C3. We also talked a little bit about this off air while we were waiting for the tech issues to disappear. And
we should maybe explain for a second what this is about. So Rook C1, White is delaying castles, and he's hoping that in some lines the H4 could come like if black plays. I don't know.
Absolutely, yeah.
Something like this, H4 will probably be kind of annoying.
Yeah, this is the absolute best addition for White, of course, because they often go F3, King F2 anyway, even with a loss of tempo. So provoking F3, specifically here, is even worse than usual. But yeah, the point of Rook C1 and the point of keeping the king in the center here is to switch to an attempt to give mate on the king side. Then H4 instead of Rook C1 exists on its own, but it gives black additional options, of course, with the rook not on C1 yet. Black can deal with this in various ways. And yeah, Rook C1 has been very much gaining in popularity, and the old way, there's also an old and a new way of playing even this position specifically. And after CD4, Queen A5 check, the move King F1 used to be made more or less automatically in this position because, you know, people thought, okay, we're trying to give mate here. We're obviously not in the business of pinning ourselves. And yes, we had to give up the right of castling, but the king, the center is reasonably safe. We will play h4. Next move against most logical replies, and then, if needed, the rooks can be connected by f3, king f2, as I said. But I think queen a3 specifically in this position is the reason people kind of moved away from this idea. Yeah, very important detail there, that h4 can now be very well met by bishop g4, and f3 is impossible. And black also wants to play knight a5 and start challenging the white setup straight away. And I think because of queen a3, because of the existence of queen a3, people started looking at other options, and they realized rook c3 is actually quite playable, despite looking, it's a very, very odd looking move, tying ourselves on the a5 e1 diagonal, and also putting the rook seemingly in the way of the x-ray along the long diagonal. The bishop on g7 is kind of looking straight at it. But as I said, to my reasonably large surprise, it's very, very playable for white. And the two things I found that kind of work for black are the move e5, as I mentioned, and also there is an idea of provoking f3, or maybe even not provoking f3, and then playing bishop e6 and allowing, like rook a8 or rook f8, maybe rook a8. White has to play queen d2 here, because as Jan is showing, this just everything collapses if you allow knight takes d4. But after queen d2, black pretty much has to play bishop e6, I think. I thought the other moves are like bringing the bishop to a normal square doesn't entirely equalize here. Bishop e6 does probably equalize, but I chose e5 because I thought it was more forcing, and I didn't quite like the type of play that was the machine was showing after those in those positions after bishop e6 and takes f takes e6. But after d4 d5, which is strictly the only move here for white, my proposed solution here was b7 b5, not knight d4. Asking white to determine where the bishop goes, there are three options. You can go bishop d3, bishop b3, or you can take on c6 even. It's not unplayable. But depending on where the bishop goes, we choose the square for our knight. MVL declines to do this and goes knight d4 straight away. And this I am pretty certain I couldn't equalize at all for black. It's the most obvious move in the position, but I think it's simply queen d2 here. I don't think we need to be fancy and play bishop d2, even though it's also possible. I just couldn't equalize this position at all. I did not like it. So I'm very, very interested in how this pans out, because despite MVL being one of the absolute modern giants of the Grunfeld, he sometimes does, these days in particular, get sort of caught out by ideas he hasn't looked at recently. And as far as I could tell, his reaction is not the best.
Strong words. Yeah, bishop d2 goes to be an option here. Yeah, if we go b5 now,
it goes to d3. I think.
Now you go here, and knight b4 is off the table.
Yeah, because we obviously with b5 bishop d3 we wanted to go knight b4 and just trade that bishop off. And here, very, very importantly, white is very secure against the bishop a6 type counterplay because the bishop is on d3. So black is not like completely busted or anything, but I definitely did not feel when preparing the course that this was enough, or I wouldn't have gone for this kind of a very fancy play style idea of d5 b5, which does not look like visually doesn't look necessary.
So you chose the 0-0 move, not the +1 move for the course?
Yes, absolutely.
So
I was kind of
nice choice.
I was advised to do that whenever possible by my editors, and that very much kind of clipped my wings. I wanted to give very, very many positions, which Shin says are quite bad, but I was admonished and told not to. In a very
so MVL in trouble in a Grunfeld, not news yet, but Rapports playing 1 d4 main lines and fresh ideas. It's still somewhat newsworthy to me, although it really shouldn't be because we keep saying it. It's who he is now.
Yeah, Chad is saying after queen d2 there is bishop h3, and there is indeed bishop h3, but I think it can be
Castles. I thought about it. What's the point?
Yeah, exactly. Like it's a fun move, but I don't know if it does very much. Rook c8. I can even go rook fc1. I can continue just saying I don't understand what the eventual threat will be once everything is traded off. But yeah, possibly bishop d2 is even stronger. I can't exactly remember, but I do remember that there was a very specific numerical reason for not playing knight d4 here. And Jan is somebody who has also done chessable courses in the past. He knows how these things work. Whenever there's a weird move being given instead of a very obvious natural looking move, there's a very straightforward numerical reason for it.
Not just in courses, no? Opening prep.
Yeah.
It's usually based on these numerical reasons with the engines being so strong now. Yeah, Maxime took a while, played knight to d4. And the advantage you might have is that it put Rapport out of book, who clearly will that b5 is the way to go here. And the usual trade-off. Get him out of book, but at what price?
Yeah. At what cost, indeed. Yeah, in the other one, h4, knight c6, h5, I think, yeah, I'm not sure we even need to spend a tempo on bishop b7 because it feels to me that it's quite likely black is castling queenside anyway. So we could definitely keep the bishop on f8 so that we don't have to react to rook h3, g3. But I would like to stop h6, so I think h5, h6 is very logical here. And then we think about what we want to do, but...
Just for understanding purposes here, if I go, let's say, queen c7, would you actually push?
I don't know, but like it's such an instinctive reaction, right? Here,
yeah, I understand.
Yeah, h6 gh actually looks very decent for black, and maybe we don't have to spend a tempo on it at all. But you're just so used to the idea of stopping it on h5 whenever it gets to h5 that I think very, very often you just do it without asking yourself if it's a waste of a tempo or not. Yeah, but yeah, very much agree with your point that here it might be completely unnecessary, at least for now and maybe even ever.
No, it was a serious question. I can't really judge how this affects the structure. Like if this,
I don't know, we go rook g8, g6 or whatever. Yeah, I think I don't dislike it for black. Yeah, and just castle long.
No, that's how I felt that h6 would look strange, but
yeah,
can't really tell.
Absolutely, yeah.
Obviously, white not forced to push that pawn either after queen c7. You can, I don't know. I guess long castles is part of the plan either way.
This is maybe what we should be discussing. Like just generally speaking, let's say castles, king b1, and the question is, give me one.
I have like knight g5 here.
Yeah. Maybe this is where you start thinking the pawn should be on h6. Actually,
that's why I went h6. Not sure this is anything, but it looks a bit scary.
Does look a bit annoying. So yeah, maybe we do play h6 somewhere, but. Let's say h6, king b1 castles, yeah, some kind of position like this. What I wanted to say is, I'm not entirely sure how black is supposed to change the structure here, if at all. Like maybe we just completely ignore the fact that there are these pawns on e5 and h5. But we do have two options as I see them. We can play d5 or d6. Both of those probably will provoke the capture, either en passant or directly on d6. Or we can play for bishop b7, f6, which also doesn't look horrible at all. But considering white probably goes rook h3, g3 in any case, I think bishop b7, rook g3 might be quite awkward, or at least not as happy as we would like. And the issue with playing d5 or d6 as much, in as much as there is an issue, is that after white takes, we will have to take with something that is not the bishop. And yeah, the question is whether this is a problem at all, and if it is, how big of a problem. Let's say white goes, I don't know, d2, d4 here, and says, I will now attempt to use the fact that there is a queen on d6, which might be targetable.
How does this go? We are pinned ourselves, no?
Yeah, cd4, knight d4, e5 might win the piece. I was kind of trying to find a tactical way not to resign here, and failing, to be honest, but yeah, this is what happens when you try to discuss structures after making some random moves. reality gets in the way.
Reality bites.
Yeah. But all in all,
great position.
Mhm.
Queen c7 long castles does look like the most standard way to play, but Andrejkin is taking his time here. We shall.
Yeah, he should feel, Anish has already burned through more than 20 minutes on the clock, which is extremely unusual for move 12 with the white pieces for him. So yeah, Andrejkin could feel quite safe just investing a bit of time himself.
Rapport also taking his time to perfect the move. Something will go to d2.
Yeah,
that much we know.
Pretty much, yeah. That it's unlikely anything else happens, but yeah, Queen d2 looks more obvious, but it does allow some tactics. And Andrejkin goes for a very unusual thing.
Whoa, he's trying the knight fork.
Yeah, because actually it's not that comfortable. Like you might actually be provoking the sacrifice of the pawn on a2 here, because d3. I guess
you want to take, or
yeah, maybe he wants to take. Yeah, even though I'm not sure how good this structure change is, but looks like he might be interested. Maybe even queen g5 here or something. Just try to exploit it for all it's worth. Yeah, bishop c. Yeah, bishop c1 is
bingo though.
Yeah, I was looking at a3 followed by. Yeah, that would be. I can still take on h5 though. I thought I lost, but.
No, life goes on, but it looks scary. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe bishop h3 wasn't forced.
Yeah, Anish insta replies with d3. I guess it didn't surprise him or.
No alternatives. d4, yeah. Bishop f3.
No, d4 is not right. I was legitimately kind of wondering if you can say, okay, two tempi here are worth a pawn, but it's a very important pawn. And
we gives black a built-in mating attack now.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's just completely unplayable. We don't have any play yet, and black is yeah, it's just completely unplayable. So now this is interesting because yes, we provoked d3, but I'm not sure how happy I am giving up that bishop. But maybe we can just go queen g5. Queen g5 is probably a little bit too fancy. We can go bishop f3, gf, and then maybe like knight d5. Trying to stop f4 from happening, and like bishop e7, g5 would be a kind of a dream scenario in terms of control over the dark squares here.
Okay, go f4 anyway. It looks like you're spending.
Yeah, I'm spending a ton of time on very, very unnecessary things, but okay, let's take queen f3 or e4, g4 or wherever. Yeah, g4. I have to go back, kinda. You go bishop g2. Yeah, this starts looking kind of scary, to be honest.
Nice for white now. Like
yeah.
Castle h6, d4. There's all kinds of ideas.
Yeah, this doesn't look right. So yeah, very curious. Is there any other way to continue here that doesn't, like, obviously we can just ignore it and claim that transferring the knight over to d5 is
b5.
b5. Very, very non-standard by Andrejkin here, saying that I want the knight on d5. I would like, if at all possible, maybe to even secure it with b5 before later in the game. And also, please spend the tempo driving it away. I don't need to play knight d5 yet because it's quite good on before, stopping some of your ideas as well. Yeah, this is going to be very sharp and very non-standard.
Weird stuff. And yeah, I don't know what the verdict is. I would guess style-wise, it might be bad. That could be an issue. But it's good for Andrejkin to have non-standard business out of book. It feels more like his home turf than Anish's. If it's bad though, that could be an issue.
Yeah, and yeah, in the meantime, Rapport is still thinking in the Grunfeld.
By the way, now after a3, doesn't make any sense to take now. You still have to go.
I'm guessing it's a better version, but I think he just doesn't mean to take on f3 at all. I think he just thought getting the knight over to d5 is an improvement in any case. So why not just
here? Can't I push it around?
I'm gonna. It gets kind of stuck on f4, right? I was kind of hoping to make knight f4 work, but
not sure how great it is there.
Yeah, I was, hoping to combine it with some kind of queen a5 counterplay, but so far failing to make that click. I think I can play like BC, DC, queen a5 check, but my issue is after queen d2, I don't like.
Well, happily pretend this is a Scotch now, no?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is a very, very Scotch type position, and yeah. And my issue is like the knight still gets trapped on f4, unfortunately. Like takes knight f4. If I had one tempo here to do something, I might be okay, but king e3 kind of wins. Well, maybe not wins because g5 still exists, but this is now very, very
not happy, are you?
Yeah, no, not at all. No, knight g5, knight g2 is maybe actually not that horrible, but just hg, knight g6, bishop d3, I think is a very, very annoying endgame. Not going to be very enjoyable once it lands on before 1e4 here. Although, yeah, I mean, once again, we can continue making moves, but this is very, very far in the future. So, okay, a3, knight d5, c4 is a very serious question. So what else do we have? I don't think it's going back. So, yeah, maybe this. And just back this way, yeah? f4.
Yeah, not sure it's great.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like queen a5 check annoys me, but also I think if I castled long there and you played a5, this would also annoy me because I don't actually have a good reply to a5, a4 coming very quickly. So I might have to accept some kind of a race here, go f4, a4, f5 or whatever, and claim that we are now in a fight to the death. But I think I know who is likely to win that fight to the death, like a, b, c, b, c4. I think it's just unlikely to work for white.
How do we get here?
Yeah, good question.
Oh, yeah. So a3. Maybe he just wants to provoke whatever weakening of the queen side to make long castles less fun, but just knight c6 feels like waste so much time.
Yeah, we've burned so much time that yeah, it feels kind of unnatural, and also yeah, not sure how I wanted to continue that sentence, but yeah, if he actually just ends up going knight c6, I'm not sure I like the entire concept. It feels slow, and white is not committed to castling queenside at all.
Black is a nuisance, though. White,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm looking for a good way to stop queen a5, and yeah, I'm not sure I have one, which is surprising and annoying.
I hear you.
We haven't spoken about not the tournament situation. The tournament situation is entirely obvious, but like the overall Grand Prix situation very much. But there's definitely some things to be mentioned there with the points allocation being what it is, and in particular, I have only realized that when preparing for, well, actually while waiting for the show to start, that Dmitry Andreikin, who missed the first leg due to, I think, testing positive for COVID, will now be the replacement for Ding Liren in the second Berlin tournament, which comes almost immediately after this one, meaning that him getting to the semis here is very, very relevant for him and for everybody else, because this is not his one and only tournament, as I incorrectly assumed, but actually the first of two. And if he progresses even further, he will be very much in contention for qualifying for the candidates. And even more important, the person with sort of most immediately at stake here is Richard Rapport, I think, who is playing his second leg. And yeah, there you see the standings with Linier and Richard tied for third on 7 points, still behind the two finalists in Berlin. And for Richard, it feels like if he loses the semis to MVL, he probably doesn't qualify. It feels like 14 points in the final count is unlikely to be enough. But if he gets to the final, he puts a lot of pressure on, let's say, Levon already, maybe even Hikaru, but definitely on Levon, on at least 17 and possibly 20 points. So yeah, he very much needs to. And once again, yeah, this is Peter saying, yeah, winning semifinal is better than not winning semifinal. Breaking news, stop the press. But for him in particular, the equation is very, very simple. Getting to the semi on its own will probably not be enough. And the other two semifinalists are playing their first event. So actually, all three of the other semifinalists are playing the first event because Andreikin will play in the second one.
Why are chances so bad if he loses these semifinals? Like, we're assuming that Levon or Hikaru will make the semifinals in the next one, or Anish?
Not horrible, but
so it's
no.
Yeah,
I mean,
I guess it's unlikely. No one will.
He will still be, he will be in first place even before the start, but you get the feeling that a lot of things will have to go his way in the third leg, where he will.
What has to go his way is that none of the finalists qualify for the semifinals. No?
Yeah.
And I was wondering how unlikely that is.
It's not that unlikely. These are very, very tough groups, and I think the groups potentially have already been announced. So we could go sort of even further down that rabbit hole and try to figure out how likely we think it is that Levon and Hikaru get out of groups. But
CT's chess is saying Hikaru said, I know it disappeared. Hikaru said he wants Andreikin to win the event because the next group is very hard for him. He wants Rapport to beat MVL and lose the final. Ideal world. So he's saying Andreikin's next group is very hard. Yeah, so he's assuming if Andreikin wins this one, he's not going to make it out of the next group. That'd be best for him. And
yeah, so Hikaru clearly has done some research, which is.
Why would he want Rapport to beat MVL? He considers MVL a bigger threat.
Yeah, that would be the assumption somehow, which is interesting.
The semifinal. That's weird math.
Yeah, like Rapport getting to the final puts him on 17 points, at least, ahead of Hikaru on 13, and Hikaru will need to get out of the group for to be ahead of Rapport. So
yeah, it's hard to believe that MVL's expectation in the last one is bigger than losing in the semifinals. No, so that's odd, but
yeah, that is
maybe he did study the groups more.
Yeah, but yeah, Hikaru. Clearly, yeah, he has sort of more of a stake in studying exactly what outcomes he wants than we do.
Skin in the game.
Yeah, very much skin in the game, and yeah, Rapport is still kind of in. I wanted to say shocked, but probably not that shocked. Yeah, Bishop D2. I glanced briefly. I think Bishop D2 is. Stronger than Queen D2, but both give White at least some advantage. Bishop D2 appears to give.
You could make a case for it, no? That you're sort of stopping this Bishop H3 nonsense. You're introducing Knight takes D4 in more positions. I mean, there is some logic behind it, even though Queen D2 is, of course, the most quote-unquote normal move.
Yeah. And yeah, and the reason we're saying White is better here, if it's not obvious, is very simply that there is a protected passer on d5. The bishop on g7 got killed off by black playing e5 and then failing to open anything in the center. And also the knight from d4 very, very likely will get traded on e2, meaning that we can't really reroute it to d6, where it would have been a nice blockading piece, meaning that really nothing can properly blockade the pawn on d5. It might actually start running quite quickly. Yeah, these are not the types of Grunfeld positions with a protected passer on d5 that you like for black. Yeah, but I think despite Ricci, I think he's, well, let me check. Yeah, he's been in the tank for 29 minutes by this point. But it's not an unhappy tank. It's he knows this is not the best move. He's just trying to figure out how best to react. What I'm pretty sure he is certain is not the optimal reaction.
Maybe he's just taking a nap.
Or that.
Long event.
Or that.
He's just a guy, Richie. Knight c6 played indeed.
Yeah, this is very curious by Andrakin. Feeling that, provoking d3 and a3 is worth kind of 2-ish tempi. Because if you look at the position after h5 on move 10, black played b5, white played a3, d3, and will make one more move. And then it will be his move again.
Maybe
so sort of
b5 is key. Couldn't do it here.
Yeah. Pretty sure that he feels b6, b5 is very, very useful. And in particular, a3, you can definitely argue that a3 is counterproductive because it makes a5, a4 counterplay hurt more when there's an immediate extreme likelihood of an a file being opened properly. Yeah, but very, very costly in terms of time.
Chess Sweep is intrigued by your new haircut.
Which is exactly the same as the old haircut. It's just, I did get a shave, but it's exactly the same haircut as before. I just, basically, you go to the gym and then you blow dry your hair and then it like assumes a life of its own because I don't take product into the gym. So it's...
You're not juicing?
No. Not juicing, also not applying any product to the hair.
Oh, okay. How's your gym routine going?
How
often do you go?
3 times a week.
How much time you spend there? Like an hour? But you have your fancy coach, so probably.
Yeah, I have a trainer, so yeah, it's a 1 hour reasonably kind of structured, quote unquote proper workout. I'm not sure what you're supposed to play with white. Like after all the speeches we gave about this being slow, I'm still at a loss as to what I want to play with white. Because Queen A5, as you mentioned, Queen D2 was my like second best choice.
You did that, yeah? Queen D2. Oh,
yeah. Just stopping Queen A5 check. And I guess if we play Queen A5 anyway, you are playing Bishop C3, right? Because it feels like taking the queens off is probably quite decent for black. I'm not 100% sure, though. Maybe we can allow the trade.
I don't think he will play Queen A5. I thought also white king safety was an issue, which was... I don't know.
Yeah. Queen D2 was definitely, the solution that you come to if you're really very worried about Queen A5 check and you don't have a particularly comfortable reply to it. It feels like a wasted tempo, but maybe just preventing that check is the most important thing.
Do we have I guess we don't have a graph here for the Berlin, the third Grand Prix, the groups, because
people have posted the link in chat, and I think Nightbot responded very harshly to that, but I'm pretty sure there is a link somewhere.
That's on the Twitch chat, you mean?
Yeah. Let me see, because it's actually kind of relevant to look at.
Because I'm reading that Hikaru and Levon are in the same group, which would already be interesting in the sense that they can't both make the semifinals.
Yeah, that's a very, very relevant thing. Yeah. And Andrakin is in the same group.
Whoa. Here we are. Group A, Levon, Hikaru, Andrakin, Oparin. So that's why Hikaru said it's a very tough group for Andrakin, because he's in it.
Yeah.
He's not wrong, of course. Yeah, that is a rough group with 3, at least, semifinalists. Group B, Mamedyarov,
Linier, Dubov, and Keimer.
Why is Linier LDP? What is the piece?
Linier Dominguez Perez.
Perez, yeah. Dubov, Keimer. Group C, So, Maxim, Schenkler, and Pretke, another tough group. And Giri, just so he doesn't get too confused, he's back with Nikita.
Yeah, Nikita and Tabatabai.
Yeah.
So
He gets
also
the same group.
pretty much the same group, right?
Hari was replaced by Yu Yang Yi, but
It's pretty much the same group, yeah.
they should shuffle the groups up a little. Huh?
Yeah, if something like that happened at a local casino, somebody would ask for a deck change.
How is it done? Like it's like in the FIFA World Championship, you get players in certain categories and then they're assigned to one group, or?
I have no idea. It was done on Zoom. I don't know if it was done for all three Grand Prix, but definitely before the first one. They've done
the Wheel of Fortune, all right.
Yeah, they've done it the way they do pretty much everything these days, by creating a Zoom call for all the participants and doing it live on air using some kind of a random generator. But I don't know exactly which, because obviously wasn't there. But yeah, that is a really, really weird situation where three of the people who will have a ton of points and a lot at stake will be in the same group there, with the Levon and Hikaru group, and Andreikin also in it. And that shakes up all the calculations, because in my, the picture I was trying to solve had all of them in random places in the sitting.
But that looked good for Giri, no? If he makes it to the finals, and then he has this group where, at least by rating, he's a significant favorite.
Yeah.
You go of Yu Yang Yi and Tabatabai.
Yeah.
His chances are looking pretty good if he makes it past Andreikin at the very least.
Yeah, he would very much like to get at least to the final here once again. Yeah, breaking news. People do better if they win matches instead of losing them.
But, and Bishop D2 played by Rapport after some consideration. He plays the strongest move according to the engines.
Yep.
Good job by you.
Yeah, people in chat saying kind of that spot gear is to lose. I think that's a bit of an overstatement. You're in, like, even if you are mathematically in a very good spot, considering how the pairings came out for the second Berlin tournament, you're still never nailed on to win the group in these things. These are all very, very strong players.
I don't think Anish can be stopped anymore. Now that he quit Twitter, he doesn't have any distractions anymore that can stop.
Yeah. I can get on board with that argument. Maybe that was what was sort of the one final missing piece of the puzzle there, was leaving that toxic environment behind and concentrating on wholesome things, such as studying the B3 against the Paulsen.
Yeah. That is what he said, no? That Twitter had gotten too hostile for him. So he quit. I haven't checked Instagram, if he's still in the Instagram. Mr. Dodgy is saying, okay, but I was terrible at chess before Twitter, so riddle me that. That is true. Also, Mr. Dodgy's rise. A bit, I'm not sure if this is a fair comparison, but I would think it's sort of similar. Mild spoiler coming, very mild spoiler. Mr. Dodgy's rise, I think, has been fueled by social media, not unlike the Riddler in the new Batman movie.
Who plays the new Riddler?
It's Paul Dano.
Need to Google that.
You might know him from movies such as Little Miss Sunshine.
Nope. I have seen him, but I can't remember where, and I haven't seen Little Miss Sunshine. So
why not? Such a feel-good movie.
That's probably why I haven't seen it, to be honest. I guess that explains much of it, but also I just don't watch very many movies.
He's also the guy who gets beaten up in Prisoners. Usually,
And he wasn't
these guys
There
that
Will Be Blood, yeah.
are getting a rough time.
I should have watched There Will Be Blood, but yeah, very much.
You haven't watched There Will Be Blood?
Nope.
I didn't like it much, but it won the Oscars, no?
He won very many Oscars, yeah. And yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis being a good actor is, I think, on par with the it's better to win the semifinal rather than lose the semifinal category of hot takes. But
Anish, great actor, as we know from his Chasuble clip, has played Queen D2 here. And Andreikin's clock is running.
harsh, but true.
No, that wasn't meant as a dick.
Yeah. There was some mention in chat on the necessity for Anish to also abandon the futile idea of chasing women through Paris and following them to Jardin Luxembourg, but it has gotten him to sort of where he is in life. So why would he stop doing that?
So if Mr. Dodgy is like the Riddler, then Anish is like the Batman. I don't want to spoil the whole movie, but a lot of Paul Dano talk. I apologize. Back to chess. Bishop D2 breaks the pin.
Yeah. White definitely, we don't mind if knight on e2 gets traded, and we also, I think, quite happily will take on d4 ourselves with white here if that option presents itself, because then if the center pawns get moving, they will be very, very strong. Like the structure after, I don't know exactly how to demonstrate, but let's say, I don't know, b5, bishop d3. Already maybe not the best move, just to kind of illustrate the structure. Queen b or bishop d7, I don't know, some kind of a move. Bishop knight d4, e4, rook c2, queen goes somewhere, I don't know, b6, a3. Yeah, a3 is clearly stronger, but like here we castle, we want to play f4 and d5. And if e4 and if f4 and d5 happens, black's position generally becomes close to lost. And yeah, the moves I made to demonstrate are completely ridiculous and will never happen, but I just wanted to show this structure and say that, it looks like maybe black is getting somewhere by allowing the trade that way, because there is a passer on d4, the bishop on g7 feels like it's currently slightly more alive because its diagonal got lengthened, and so on. It maybe also wins some time by attacking the rook on c3, but it is very, very dangerous strategically to allow it.
Wow. Chad is not on board with Anish being Batman. Not at all. Who do you want to be Batman? Maxime?
Well,
Dark Knight?
Dodgy basically staked the claim. He nailed his colors to the mast and says, Batman is him or nobody.
If I had a picture of Dodgy on a vehicle wearing the cape, ideally some video footage where he says, "I'm Batman," that would help with the decision making.
Yeah, I think we need some further proof before we agree with that.
He's on it. Queen d2. What to do, Mr.
Yeah, I mean, a5 looks logical, but I think one of the useful things about not castling just yet is that with the rook still on a1, we probably just play a4 here, right?
Looks normal, unless you're in time to do bad things here.
But I was going to ask you, let's just take on a4, go knight b4, bishop c6, and so on, right?
King's Indian style.
Yeah, and so on, obviously doing carrying a lot of weight in that sentence, because it's not really winning the game or anything. And white could go for like a double rook lift now. Go like c3 while bishop 6 hasn't happened yet. Knight d5, rook g4, followed by rook h3, g3, and creating a lot of pressure against the black king side where there is no king. So it seems a bit pointless.
Yeah, don't know. Bishop d2 played. Chat is asking for lines after f5. Looks like a good move.
Looks like a move. I don't know. I don't know if I'd go as far as to say it's a good move, but it's a move. Also, someone early in the Twitch chat said this is a lazy stream. We don't calculate here, and I wanted to endorse this message with like all my heart.
Yari Baba is saying no. Go to another stream for analysis. A lot of analysis here. f5. It's pawn. Do we have to react if we castle?
I would very much like to ignore it altogether, yeah, but fe4 is annoying. First of all, because we lost the pawn, and secondly, because it kind of revived the bishop on c8. Bishop g4 is now more of an idea. Rook c1, maybe for now. Just ask you which square you like. Queen b6 does look logical.
Thank you.
It's weird. Yeah, I'm looking at some pawn sacrifices. Yeah, maybe this. Bishop f5.
And who's better and why? It got so messy.
Yeah, it suddenly got very, very messy. We can go d6, knight d5 here, but I think black will very, very happily sacrifice this exchange. Yeah, bishop b4, queen, anywhere which doesn't lose immediately. Queen d7 probably, yeah. And then take with the rook. Looks fantastic for black. Looks like a position we take instantly with zero hesitation.
Yeah, no, can't do this. Okay, so did we oversell white's position, or do we just lack precision?
I think we
see that bishop d2 was the best move, so probably Compi likes something. You know?
Yeah, Compi definitely liked bishop d2 quite a bit, but yeah, I'm just struggling to work out how to react to this. I keep on looking at ways to give that pawn away in a useful fashion, and none of those ways feel right. Like another one would be to go rook c1, queen b6.
Okay, then let's keep the pawn like a normal person.
Yeah, okay.
Ale.
Bishop takes, I guess. Castle.
You have threats, sir.
No, but I probably go like rook ac8 here and claim that things have not deteriorated too far yet. Queen a3 or d6? b6. Sorry, I can't really work out. Yeah, let's go here.
Yeah, no, I'm not claiming anything in particular, but white should be somewhat better.
A bit better, yeah, like takes or even knight g3 or
one of the two. I've had such positions from King's Indians, and usually it's a factor that the black king is slightly less.
Absolutely, I just, having been corrupted by seeing the very weak but still an evaluation of the position after bishop g2, I feel like this is probably us selling our advantage a little bit short. Even though, yeah, I absolutely agree with you, and I prefer white here. But it doesn't feel like we're doing justice to what the numbers are saying. But yeah, the numbers are opaque.
All right. Well, is there b5?
It exists, but yeah, I think it's less.
This feels.
I think I can also start with rook c1 so that you don't get to achieve this so easily. Or even knight d4, e4, rook c1 is maybe not that horrible.
Which one is it?
Yeah,
you can't make all the moves.
Well,
at least not at once. Yeah, no, this feels bad.
This doesn't feel right. Yeah, like these positions I very, very much hate for black. They look like you're one more mistake away from being completely busted. Yeah, f5 is very critical because it's not sort of the right structure for black to play f7, f5 on general grounds, and I was very reluctant to even consider it. But with chat asking us about it, yeah, I think I prefer it to everybody else to everything else by a large margin here. Because yeah, if you play slowly here, you're just not going to like how this will develop.
There's more talk about Peter's haircut. It's not a new haircut.
Not a haircut, yeah. It's a
post-workout hair.
It's a shave, yeah. And
Dmitry. What's Dimitri's nickname? Dima, yeah?
Dima, yeah. And that's not a nickname, that's a diminutive, right? His nickname has for, as long as I remember, he actually, it's a kind of a rare thing, I think, in Russian chess, because people, you get those like little names you call people, and you don't give them like nicknames as in some other sports, but he sort of has one. It's not widely used, but it's used wide enough, I think, to make that claim. And we've always called him Maestro. Or Maestro, yeah. It's a
Maestro.
Yeah. I think it was born out of the first time I started playing with him for the same team, this being, the Russian national team. He had this like extreme calmness about him in like severe time troubles in important matches. Like the way he would still make a very, very deliberate hand motion, like he was never hurried in time troubles, and he always took great care to like move the pieces elegantly and somewhere around that time, people, I think, started calling him Maestro, and it stuck, I think.
So Dochi is saying it's a diminutive. And I mean, diminutive kind of works with Dimitri as well, no?
Yeah, I thought all of those things are perfectly suited for this particular player.
Speaking of perfectly suited, I'm sure Anish, nicely dressed, focused,
yes,
but out of book, Queen D2, both players somewhat freestyling. H6, is this an issue?
I mean, we still take, I guess, right? We never play G6. We pretty much always take. And having played A5, it looks like the king will be on E8 for the rest of the game, but I don't really think we're that unhappy about it. We're probably okay putting one rook on G8. Another one will be useful on the A file in most cases. I don't know. Doesn't look horrible.
Chat has noticed Andrakin's pause. Voice. And pause.
And pause, yeah. And posse.
I thought he's more of a lone wolf.
Yeah, that was
a lone family man, we should say.
Yeah, non-factual. He has, stated that in interviews as well, that he kind of prefers to work on his own and never really had a group of people around him to prepare with, and is very much a family man, yeah. He's been traveling to tournaments with his wife and also their little child. I've seen them, during tournaments with a stroller and kind of a picture of marital bliss. The rook has been moved to C8 via the B8 square.
It's a statement. He's saying, I will never castle queenside, ever.
Yes. It is a strong statement, by the way.
Yes.
I mean, B5 was already kind of hinting at that, but to me, it's more surprising that he's sort of giving up on the A5, A4 idea, rather than the fact that he's giving up on castling queenside. I don't quite know
why rook c8. What does this support?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what this move is supposed to signify. We're not really planning to play c5, c4 because I don't think there is any tactical justification for allowing white to take with a d pawn and the bishop. Yeah, it's a very mysterious move to me. Maybe it starts making sense if white kind of obliges and castles queenside. Maybe it's aimed specifically against queenside castling. I think I figured it out, potentially. Now we go c4. And if white takes with d and the bishop, we have knight a5, which is surprisingly annoying here because of knight takes b3 shenanigans.
Wow, that's a very specific reason. But yeah.
But like, what else? Like, why?
No, I agree. Just
why is the rook on c8 otherwise? But white obviously is completely unobliged to go along castles, and rook h3
the usual.
Yeah, like what's our next move now that we've sort of committed to this tactical thing and white hasn't blundered it?
Naughty Rook is asking, is d4 any good? I don't know.
That would be justifying black's play a little bit. Yeah.
Good work though, right?
I have a feeling c4 might be playable, but even if, let's say, we go knight takes d4, knight d4, cd, I don't particularly like this idea for white of opening up everything that was currently kind of not doing very much. Like the rook on c8 now makes sense. The bishop on g7 has become much more active. It might be playable, but wouldn't have been my first, second, or third choice, I think.
Wow. It's not in the top 3.
Don't think so. No, yeah, not a huge fan.
It's harsh. I don't know.
No, I mean,
I like it, but I also can't stand tension. Position is so undefined. Here it looks more defined.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's not a bad move. I just don't like the idea of giving sort of breathing room for all these pieces.
Maxime does not like the idea of giving his own pieces any breathing room either. Just plays bishop d7.
Yeah, very much allowing knight d4, which is curious. Looks very, very kind of. I mean, I want to use the word risky because other words that come to mind seem a bit harsh. But
it just looks bad, no?
Like rook c1, castles f4, queen b3. Like, where's the counterplay? I really don't know where we're supposed to get any kind of long-term counterplay here for black. Looks horrible to my eyes, just to the first glance. Who do you think is practically better in Giri versus Andrakin? Hard to say. Until rook c8 happened, I was very much on the fence. After rook c8, I feel like it's a move that we didn't really need. Yeah, exactly. Like, you just go rook h3 here. You don't engage in any kind of the immediate central calculations. You make the move you were pretty much always going to make, and you say, okay, next. And I don't know what next is here for black. Queen c7, maybe with some 94 ideas.
Nigridis is leaving to watch Batman. He's saying, go Richie. Enjoy, Nigridis. I'll see you in 3 hours and 10 minutes. You're going to the movies, in which case probably have half an hour of commercials before.
Yeah, and Zixo says the word you're looking for is interesting. Yeah, in order to describe bishop d7. Yeah, that's it's
a tough word to keep in mind.
No, that's a kind of a recurring, not even a joke necessarily, but it is a word commentators use quite a bit when they are kind of unprepared to just straight up say this is horrible and should never have been played. Very often used for things we consider to be mistakes.
But do you use a condescending tone of voice then?
I try not to, but I'm pretty sure I've done it once or twice, yeah.
And Faku is going to the gym to get his hair look sharp. That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's obviously the missing ingredient there. So seriously, maybe queen c7, knight c4, knight d4 is the way to try to justify the rook on c8. I'm struggling to find anything else. I think our tactics still work after long castles, and yeah, here I just want to play 94 and claim that now the setup at least is, somewhat connected to what's happening on the board. 94 CD and both e5 and c2 pawns are hanging, so.
Where does this go? You take?
Oh, yeah, I've plundered the a7 pawn, haven't I?
I'm not sure how big a deal that is.
Yeah, exactly. It might not be that horrible, but I have definitely blundered it. Might actually be a bit annoying because the rook on h8 is still very, very far from joining the counterplay here.
Oh no, do we need it? Let's make moves. Allez.
Yeah. A4 seems forced-ish. Bishop d5, rook b2. Yeah, could actually still be completely fine for black. Yeah, d4. I don't know. It's on the other hand, if we don't actually get somewhere here, the a pawn might be a bit strong. Yeah.
Yeah, this guy could be hard to stop.
With all of our pieces kind of locked away in the box there on the king side.
Stakes is high.
Stakes is higher than normal, yeah.
What's the tier saying?
Oh, I missed that, yeah. When we got to we missed a whole bunch of messages. At least I've missed a whole bunch of messages. So on the topic of the pairings being made for the Grand Prix, it's actually pieces of paper with numbers written on them, which the arbiter holds up in his hands, and people actually pick via Zoom, which is a very 2022 way of doing things, obviously.
Sounds very advanced, yeah.
Yeah,
And it's impossible to heat some of the papers.
So that some of them are warm and some of them are, yeah. The old heating the papers, yeah, and then I pick the one that's on fire. Yeah, and having scrolled up high enough, I do want to apologize to Satiris for ignoring that window, because I stupidly put something on top of that window and just didn't see the messages, but he provided us with all the groups more or less immediately after we asked for them, and we just did not see that being who we are. Queen c7 played, so, whether it works or not is unclear, but he is seemingly following that path. After rook g3, we can still make one more waiting move, I guess. Like if we really dislike the idea of giving up the pawn a7, I don't think white has any threats yet, so we can go a6 or something along those lines. There's also knight e7, which, the moment the rook appears on g3, the idea of going knight e7, f5 probably gains in attractiveness a little bit, because it will kick the rook out, but knight a7 might be met by knight h4, so I don't know if we actually get to put the knight on f5. After queen c7, also Anish, I think, has to assess whether he likes the idea of allowing knight d4, because if you do allow knight d4, the position changes quite drastically. The issue for Anish is he also doesn't have very many useful moves in this position, right? You can play queen f4 maybe, but I don't know if it stops knight d4, and it also allows f6, f5, all kinds of things. And I think long castle c4 still works out for black anyway, as much as I can judge. So yeah, this is still a very intricate position, very difficult to understand what's happening, whilst in the other one, I think it's very kind of clear what's happening. MVL is in a ton of trouble. I don't know if it's already kind of beyond recovery or not. Probably not, because machines defend everything these days. But in practical terms, this is just bad, I think.
Strategically, there's just, the center, once it gets rolling, it can't be stopped. And this counterplay looks very slow. The deep one's not doing anything. He has to find a way to mix it. But where?
Yeah. The kind of the ideal scenario here is that somehow white never finds time to play a 4e5, and you play like a5, b5 before. You maybe hope to get the rook to c3. Even, let's say, if it costs you an exchange, you're probably kind of happy to create some connected passers on the c3 square. But all of that looks very, very slow. Yeah, he's very much in the fight for his life here. And also, I do want to mention that even the endgame after queen b3 looks kind of horriblish. I don't know if it's the best move. Maybe just castling is stronger, but queen b3, bishop takes b3 also looks very, very strong with rook c7 ideas, and just structurally white is clearly better here with the awesome pawn center that they have.
If you had this against Kramnik 10, 15, 20 years ago, you would strongly consider resigning here, no?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. I mean, I probably wouldn't have, but...
No, I don't mean you, but I mean like in general. Like,
yeah, I've lost games like him.
Win on autopilot?
I've lost a very similar structure to him in the Dortmund 98 tournament. Very, very similar. And I think I even had an extra pawn somewhere, and it still didn't help me one bit. So yeah, I very much have the exact flashbacks that you're describing. Yeah. So once again, you have to very much compliment Richie's choice of a line against Grunfeld here, because I've looked at it very seriously. There is not one but two solutions which the engine suggests are quote-unquote comfortable equality, but neither feels very, very intuitive. And yeah, MVL tried making the kind of quote-unquote normal logical moves. And
you also gotta know your personnel. No, good luck playing this against Anish and not being shown the next 15 moves. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and yeah, for sort of kind of a limited time offer for a limited time, even against myself, honestly, I will probably be able to remember what the file says. Like, ask me in half a year, and I will be much more confused. But right now, I probably can still recall some things. Blockrule says you can wait for b5 to play queen b3 anyway in Rich's game, which is a very good point, actually. You can castle, and then if black plays b5, we can play queen b3 there, which probably improves your endgame quite a bit, because stopping rook c7 becomes even more of a problem after takes. Yeah, very sound point by Blockrule. Yeah.
Also, Rapport understands pawn structures extremely well. Like, I think all top players would understand this is great for white, but he will have no doubts that he's better and about what to do here and how to convert. So this is, Maxime will need all his defensive skill to survive this one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great news for us is that we have two very non-standard fighting games. There's no exchanging of subtleties in the Berlin whatnot. The players are very much going for.
Yeah, today is a good round, considering once again I think by this point sort of proven wrong this idea that the Grand Prix in general will be very, very safely played. But I guess all of that really only applies to the group stage anyway. Like, the knockouts are no different from, let's say, the World Cup, and people approach the World Cup very, very differently. Yeah. There are some people who kind of like the idea of playing tie breaks, in particular people who rightly consider themselves very, very strong in shorter time controls. I don't know if such a person exists in the Rapport MVL match, and if there is, it probably is MVL, right? It's probably not Ricci.
Yes, MVL. Well, he's black today. He's being ambushed, but I would guess, yeah.
No, but just in general,
The two signing up for 2 draws, I guess MVL would be happier to do it then.
That's exactly my point. And in the other one, I have a feeling it's actually Andreikin, like on both counts. He is lower rated than classical, and also, although yeah, Anish has definitely become a sort of a powerhouse of online blitz, and it's
Still, you would feel that the lower the time control, the better for Andreikin, who's always been considered to have fantastic nerves and steady hand and all that stuff. Doesn't mean he's a favorite in a tiebreak, but we feel like it should improve his chances.
Exactly, yeah.
Mr. Dodgy Chess saying the World Blitz champion is pretty good at Blitz.
Yes.
That is a hot take.
That is, yeah. Something we specialize in on this show. Has Peter tried Chessel? Yeah, I'm not doing it daily, but I do them from time to time.
I've been doing a bunch. I'm very, very strong in Chessel. Finally, I found my game.
That game being Chessel specifically.
Chessel, yes.
Yeah, not the one it's loosely based on, but the Chessel. Yeah. I lost my Wordle streak.
No. Which word got you?
I forgot to do it one day. I just straight up forgot.
Doesn't lose the streak, no?
It removes your streak.
You still have 100%.
I wasn't on 100% because I lost the very first one due to fooling around, and I think I've been winning since, but the streak is broken because it doesn't count you. Like if you miss one, it restarts it on one.
Sorry to hear.
It is, yeah.
What's your opening word? I think we talked about this, but I don't remember.
I choose a new one every day.
Wow. Flexible.
Based on random feelings of anger and grief and ghoul. I have actually started recent Wordles with grief and ghoul.
It sounds very unpractical, especially if the G is wrong.
I know, but
so you're just fooling around because you know too many words.
Yeah, I think that probably is it. Yeah, that has to be it.
I usually start with soar. I don't even know how it's pronounced. SOARE. And then I go for unity.
So you're not playing on hard mode, yeah?
I don't know what hard mode is.
You can, in the settings, you can choose hard mode, which forces you to use the letters that you've already gotten correct.
No, I don't do that. Wow. So you're playing hard mode and you're going for ghoul and grief.
Yes.
You know so many words.
Yes. This is it's been my undoing, or almost my undoing, more than once. But
and JB is saying he tries different starting words every day as well. You have so much in common.
Yes. Queen B3 played in the meantime, which, yeah, I mean, it's a very practical.
I don't need any of this fancy stuff. Just give me that endgame.
Yeah, Queen takes B3, I think, absolutely, yeah, already played, absolutely forced. No other move was remotely possible there.
No way, there might be issues.
Bishop B4 and then castles, and yeah, you just get completely overrun. It's impossible.
Queen E7, I guess you start with castles.
Yeah, I think we start with castles, but yeah, this will just collapse. Yeah, Rook F1 and then Queen B7, and yeah, just you know this is not good.
Watch order, but it's not going to end well.
Yeah, it's just going to be horrible for black. Takes, bishop takes. Yeah. The important thing here for white is to control, but it's going to be very easy to control the idea of f5 so that your pawn pair in the center doesn't get broken apart. But with the bishop on b3 constantly there and rook c7 being a very strong threat, it feels like it shouldn't be very difficult to make sure you at least always can reply to f5 with f3. or possibly that f5 is just never playable at all because it loses to some kind of a forced variation starting with d6 check.
Gilithin is saying supposedly the mathematically optimal first word is rote, R-O-A-T-E.
No idea what that is, yeah.
Me neither, but I'm also still not sure what sore is. I think it's like a baby eagle. Not sure.
I need to. I actually used it as a guess once, but I didn't. Yeah, not.
So
it's a young hawk.
The claim here is that a T is more common than an S. Yeah, because my sore is very similar to rote.
Yeah,
I'm getting a sore throat from talking about it. So.
Yeah, and I've seen people claim that ratio is a very good starting word, but I think it brings such painful memories for many of us that
I think Twitter people just like using ratio or ratioed. Anish, he castles into it.
Absolutely. So what's the reply to c4 here?
I don't know.
Maybe we just ignore it. Well, I mean, for a given value like d takes, b takes, and king b1, and just say this is empty. I don't have to care.
Might help white more than black.
Yeah, like c takes cb, cb, and you would like to play something like knight a5 here, but it also allows knight d4, and it looks like black just kind of forced white to make a number of very strong, very natural-looking moves, which just improved their position greatly. This doesn't look very happy for black at all.
Plenty arrows here.
Yeah. Can we still go 94 after long castles here?
Do it.
But I guess with the c2 pawn not hanging, we can just maybe even take and play something like f4 here, right? And our queen side is not really under any kind of a particular pressure. b4 will always be met by a4 and vice versa. d6 maybe, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
d6 looks good.
Yeah, FN says, wow, MVL huge comeback. And I did briefly check what was going on there. So by huge comeback, I think what is meant specifically there is that the evaluation is now like +1 instead of +150, which sort of qualifies as a comeback, but I don't know.
Why would it drop? Because of queen b3 or bishop takes?
I think it just liked castles more. I don't think there's anything wrong with queen
bishop
b3.
takes looks normal. Yeah, the castles at queen b3.
Yeah, just liked castles better. It's queen b3 is not a mistake. It's just castles was harsher. Yeah, and thanks very much for the 2 gifted subs, DGL561, and welcome to Captain Hare and Venus. Hey, Venus. Yeah, white is still clearly better in the current position. It's just that maybe white could have been better, but I don't know if Ricci attaches great importance to being as better as possible.
He probably does, but he probably thinks this is plenty better. Maybe.
Yeah,
all the bettering he needs.
Absolutely.
I better visit the bathroom, but I'll be back. Do you want a break or do you want to soldier through?
We could use it as our sort of a usual 2-hour in break, although we kind of started late. But yeah, let's take a short break because there's still plenty of action going on from here.
Thanks for watching. We'll be back with all of the drama. Use the break to come to chess24.com. Check out all the games in the broadcast tool and have a look around. You can save 40% on the Prix membership with the code Grand Prix 2022. I haven't looked into it, but this might be the first time ever there's a 40% discount.
Okay, so let's send a challenge.
Here is challenging me. Nice graphics, easy to see. What are you thinking about? You're looking how it can be the most painful?
Exactly. Okay, fine.
That I give up a phone. He wants to be even rude.
This is John. John loves to study chess. This is David. David loves to study chess as well, but efficiently. John spends more time setting up the board and figuring out what's on the page of his book than he gets to study. David likes to take it easy and use his time wisely. David has finished his exercise for today. John should try the same.
When I saw her for the first time, it was love at first sight. I love how rich and complex she is, how sharp and principled her first steps, how graceful her movement. Paris is the city of love. I've come to find my love for the French defense.
I'm ahead of the game. Well, the phone is always ringing. I'm caught up on the line. Got a string around my finger. Remember who am I? I'm a boss and I'm honestly off my rocker. But follow me. I'm ahead of the game. I'm ahead of the game. I'm only ever slinging. I'm working overtime. Got a song and I'm the singer. The melody, the vibe. I'm a prodigy. Logically, I'm impossibly wanted. And they'll remember my name. They'll remember my name. Ooh, well, I'm ahead now. I'm ahead of the game. I'm ahead of the game. Ooh,
E5, it's E5 patzers.
A complete repertoire against 1 E4 based on 1 E5, now available to study with Chessable's unique Move Trainer technology. The backbone is the Marshall Gambit against the Spanish, with 3 Knight F6 against the Italian. Jan Gustafsson has revisited all these lines he has played for 20 years and worked on as a second for Peter Lecko and Magnus Carlsen, amongst others, with the help of the most powerful engines out there, Leela 0 and Stockfish 10. This has led to many new discoveries and a repertoire ready to master on Chessable that can serve the student for a long chess career.
Maybe E4 doesn't exist after all.
E5, it's E5 patzers.
Welcome to the new Chess24 playing experience. Play in light mode or dark mode. Choose from a range of time controls or create a custom game and get paired with players from around the world fast. Enjoy a polished playing experience while making moves on a fresh, responsive board to claim your victories. Train and improve with over 80,000 puzzles. And that's not all. Download now and discover what more you can enjoy in our brand new app.
Welcome back to the semifinals of the second FIDE Grand Prix. Rapport versus MVL and Geary versus Andreikin. And Peter Svidler after Maxim's last move, rook AE8. It does look like computers are not very happy about Maxim's chances, even unhappier than they used to be. What's going on here?
I think I haven't looked at it sort of properly, but I think the difference is I can understand why he chose rook a8 instead of rook f8, I think. The more difficult question is why the machines dislike it so much. I think the reason for him choosing this rook is that after f3, f5, rook c7, f takes e4, it might be actually very useful to have a rook on the f file once we go, yeah, exactly, rook d7, ef, discover, check, and then fg. Having rook f1 as an option in all of these lines might be like the difference between winning and losing. So I think this probably justifies in MVL's mind choosing this move over the move rook fe8. But yeah, engines appear to hate it very, very strongly, and I think the solution here supposedly is to just give up the pawn on e4 altogether, play rook c7, rook takes e4, and king d1. And here, yeah, this is what is confusing to me. Like, why is this? This was strong against rook fe8 as well, but apparently here it's borderline winning. And this one I can't explain. I can't really understand why having the rook on f8 instead of a rook on a8 in this position is so horrible. And as we're giving this speech, Richard goes f3, and MVL does reply with f5 at tempo. So at least that part of my explanation wasn't.
I've been staring at this. You lose an exchange, maybe, no? Like bishop f5, f3. Do you have squares?
Yeah, squares are hard. Yeah, maybe this is exactly the point. Yeah, that you can't really go all the way back because bishop b4 will be very painful. Even though in this position there is rook c8. So
here you have this.
Yeah, we don't lose the exchange straight up, but yeah, there must have been some reason, and we're already way past it because Richie did not play rook c7. He played the most obvious move in the position, which is f3, and now after f5, it's a different game. Even though it's
apparently still completely winning according to Barboino.
Yeah, and yeah, it does say rook c7 is completely winning, but why is just d6 d7 or something? Yeah,
d6, if bishop e6 d7 wins, huh?
And then rook e7, rook d7. Yeah,
if this we block.
Yeah, and the block just wins the game on the spot because with the king still on e1. The g-pawn will just get picked up with a...
No need to count pawns here as long as the d-pawn is alive. It's just over.
Yeah. Oh.
So this he can calculate. Like rook c7 directly looked odd, not till a rook e4 check. But here...
Yeah, and also it feels like after rook c7, MVL will just not really have any options at all. You play bishop b5, I guess, just to keep things afloat.
Are we winning directly here? There's some pinnery probably, yeah?
d7 wins right here, right? It just ends the game. It's a full rook. So not very difficult, yeah. So basically you play bishop b5, hoping for something, and white goes a4. Very much in this, like, the same reasoning. We know that if we win the bishop, we win with d6 and rook e7, so we can continue pushing it away. And if it actually goes, now I guess d6, d7 just wins, right? We go d6, king h8, d7, and with the bishop disconnected from the d7 square, we just go bishop g5 here or something, or bishop b4 or whatever. Just looks completely and utterly lost. Like takes e5 is a very, very picturesque way of... This is very much like some of my games against Kramnik from earlier years, where I just got completely stomped. Yeah, this could be a kind of a shortish game. If all of this gets found, but rook c7 is sort of far and away the most natural move in this position, and the one
you start looking at,
and the one you begin with, absolutely, yeah. And yeah, you start calculating. You realize he wants to go fe4. You realize rook takes d7 immediately doesn't work, and then you probably ask yourself, can I maybe interpose something? It really should be findable. The entire thing. It really shouldn't be too much of a problem for somebody like Richard, who is by no means a poor calculator of chess variations.
S24 chess saying d6 check is winning as well. Same idea, king h8, rook c7, but it looks
for some idea slightly. I guess it gives a c6 square for the bishop.
Yeah,
I guess that's the difference. Yeah.
Also doesn't run away, so why do it now?
Yeah.
The only reason would be this, but if this loses...
7 bishop b3, we take on b3. Ef king d1 is completely lost. You kind of have to check e3 in this position, but you know that... I mean, the problem for black is, even if we just leave the bishop on d2 on Prix, we're kind of winning. Like rook takes b7 here, I think, is winning very comfortably, which is a bit of an issue. if we can just ignore the fact that the bishop is hanging and still be more or less completely winning. Yeah, rook
c7. It doesn't take that much time. You just blitz it, or well, he took some minutes, played rook c7. Looks like he's very much on the way.
Yeah, he seems to be a huge favorite now to go one up with one to go in the semis, and if he does get to the final, I think that makes his situation in the Grand Prix in total just very, very good. Now that we know what the groups are in Berlin, now that we've actually read the messages sent to us by our producer and also by chats, with only one of Hikaru and Levon coming out of that group, 17 points is a ton, and 20 points is kind of unchaseable.
Yeah, because you don't need to win, you just need one of the top 2 spots. There, yeah. If he wins and makes one semifinal, it's going to be rough. Rough to stop with the 2 other finalists not mathematically being able to challenge him. What could go wrong? Then Anish could beat him in the finals here and make the semifinals for the next one, overtaking him.
Well, but then I think they qualify. Like he will have so many points that maybe they both qualify ahead of.
Yeah, but I'm saying, let's say Levon wins the next one, and Anish wins this one and becomes a semifinalist. Then
then it gets tricky. Yeah, there are obviously some situations in which you can still get to minimum 17 points, as Richie will have here if he wins this, and still not qualify. But they will require study like combinations of events. Yeah, but the engine bar appears to be misbehaving. Apologies, guys. It's been kind of jumping around, but in an unheard of.
It says black is winning. Chill, bar.
Yeah, bar is just kind of wrong on this. Perhaps it's time to dedicate a little bit more attention to the Giri and Draken game, because we feel like we kind of know, barring pun not intended, barring accidents in the rapport.
None taken.
Knight g5 played, which is a very kind of a unusual way to play here. Is he saying he can actually go c4? No, queen f4 is just not a move there. Like, why are we allowing c4 here?
What are you doing, Anish? Knight g5. Knight a5 also.
Knight a5 is a kind of move, but I guess knight a5 was very much an indication that Andrekin wasn't really happy with how things were going. But knight g5, I mean, it's an understandable move. You kind of want to go knight e4, creating like knight d6 ideas and so on. If black takes on it, yeah. In some positions, you might already be threatening queen f4, even though black will have f6 and f5 as a response due to the pin on the e5 pawn. But I'm trying to calculate what his response to c4 is supposed to be. Because dc4, I want to go bc4 before. I guess this is what he's planning, right? Before here. Because we are now
the rook.
Yeah. But after b5, b3, b4, I wanted to ask if I can go like h6 here.
h6.
And but maybe knight takes f7 is just very strong. Yeah, knight f7 is very strong. My point was that we kind of caught the knight on g5. It doesn't want to go back to f3 because that would allow c4, c3, which obviously is something that we would very much enjoy. And the pawn and the square on e4 is also not available with the d3 pawn being traded. But yeah, knight f7 seems to work.
Calvandi was also pointing out that if Rapport loses in the final, then Hikaru will jump him if he gets second place in the group stage. This I'm still confused about how many points you get for second place in the group stage.
2, I think.
So he would have 17, and Hikaru would have what? 16.
15. I think that's incorrect. I think
that's wrong.
Unless incorrect. It's actually 4. Okay, then I am wrong. Yeah,
4. Probably Hikaru knows it.
So they will be tied on 17, but I guess winning the leg outright gives you better tie breaks.
So that means then, yes, Calvandi is saying that 17 points without a win is unlikely to qualify. Fair enough. He might have to win it, although you could imagine many a scenario.
Yeah, I mean, that's a kind of a nice little bit of math there for sort of Hikaru's safety there. If he can, with some results of Belgrade, if Hikaru can actually reasonably safely aim for top 2 in the group, that's a huge difference to having to win it. Because
that's why I wanted Rapport to make the finals and win. Yeah, then it all makes and lose. Then it all makes more sense.
Yeah, then Rapport gets to 17 and he can finish second in his group and still overtake him on tie breaks. Yeah, Hikaru doing his homework is not unexpected. Bishop b5 played in the Grunfeld, and a4 wins kind of very, very straightforwardly, but other moves apparently are also quite strong. Even king e1, d1 here is borderline winning, but
a4 looks so logical. No, make the bishop choose where it will.
Since we have already calculated that f takes e4 never works, why not just kick it away? Since we've already done this work, yeah. Yeah, so here we're basically waiting for Richard to, looks like maybe make the sort of the final precise move of the game. Bishop b4 also looking incredibly strong.
Does it go? Fe.
Sorry, we can just take on f8 here, I think, and then depending on what you do, we can react. I guess just takes on king d1, and there's not much of a meaningful counterplay. Yeah, I got the mute button in time, which I'm very proud of.
Good job, on mute. Yeah, but a4 did look fairly clean. Let's see how Mr. Rapport will try to wrap it.
Yeah.
Baking still thinking. Yeah, rough position. Yeah, and the moves are obvious. Yeah, pattern recognition doesn't really work here, so you just have to calculate if you can go c4 or h6. What else is?
Yeah, I think you are probably the variations we were looking at after c4. They didn't look very promising, so I guess we go h6, just take on e4, and play maybe c4 there. I like c4 better than a6, just to have something going on the queen side, even though we don't really have any threats after, let's say, king b1 or b4. Yeah, but I think king b1 is probably the more flexible choice. It looks quite nice for white because, yeah, we go f4. As white, we secure the center. We no longer have anything hanging, and the queen side is not really under any kind of a threat. And yeah, it's very unclear where the king on e8 is supposed to go. How is black ever connecting the rooks and just finishing development? Because castling kingside feels extremely risky.
We'll be happy to welcome the king there.
Yeah.
No, if this operation doesn't work out, the rook c8, b5, he has destroyed the one more or less safe home for his king on b8 or c8.
Yeah, absolutely.
Feels a bit like we could get to white victories today, although it's early to say. We know how tricky Andrakin is.
Yeah, I think he's worse, but yeah, it's not really. I mean, clearly nowhere near as bad as MVL's position currently is, and white still needs to find a plan. Like if we return to the position we were just discussing after the trade on e4. Let's say c4, king b1, I go, I don't know, knight c6, f4, some move, rook b8, just to prepare for the, potential eventuality of opening the b file. Mainly, I just wanted to say that it looks very beautiful, but I also don't know how white actually opens anything up to win. And eventually, maybe we can crawl out of the corner somehow. We start by playing rook g3 to make the bishop moves even more awkward, I guess, but there is still no pawn break that white can safely attempt. f5 doesn't really create threats and very much weakens the pawn on e5. g4, g5 doesn't seem to be doing very much. You prefer white here because the king on b1 is clearly much safer than the king on e8, but you still have to show exactly how you're going to get anywhere. And he hasn't played h6 yet. I think, I mean, he's definitely not a stranger to time troubles, but with this being move 16 and Dmitry being down to 25 minutes in a very complicated position in which, you know, you don't really get your normal kinds of bearings. This position resembles nothing at all, so your autopilot is in trouble. You could be in a lot of side knot later in the game.
Yep. Kardashev, thanks for the 5 subs.
Yeah, and yeah, the more he thinks of here, the more it feels that he doesn't really like his position very much and is very unsure what to aim for. And that only kind of worsens the future time troubles, because when you're low on time, at least you want a kind of an understandable position in which you have a clear plan. And it seems like finding a clear plan for black here is maybe the biggest problem he has. You can shuffle along the the back 2 ranks as much as you like, but it's not really doing anything productive.
Symphonic Knight is saying the Grunfeld was not even recorded in the databases until 1921, when Grunfeld first played 3d5 against Ayechin.
I think there was
Ayechin liked it so much, he immediately popularized it himself.
It feels like a quote from a wiki article, because I think there were some earlier games where people played something similar, at least. Even though I think originally people who played those types of move orders, they meant to protect the pawn on d5 with c7, c6, and the modern echo system, all 3 letters capitalized, will say the Schlechter Grunfeld is still the Grunfeld, but some of the earlier Grunfelds were definitely wide different move orders. But I think there was an earlier game prior to the one he played against Alechin. The second part of the story is absolutely correct, though, because Alechin did more or less instantly start playing it himself. It was kind of noticeable that there was this one game which he lost on the white side of the Grunfeld to Grunfeld. And then you immediately start getting some Alechin games on the white side, pretty much, I think, maybe same year or next year.
On the black side, yeah?
Yeah, which is kind of remarkable considering, how non-standard the opening was for those days. And Alechin did not get a poor position with white. It's not like he didn't lose because of the opening. He lost because he kind of misplayed the middle game and blundered an exchange, and then did not find enough compensation for the full exchange that he blundered, pretty much. But yeah, he did seemingly immediately become a fan.
There you go. Chat is saying it was against Becker, not Ayechin, the first.
Yeah, I think there was one more game. Yeah, and we don't know how many he played before he played it in a tournament that was high profile enough for it to be published. I'm pretty sure he must have given it a spin in some slightly less high stake settings, but.
Is Becker his real name? It's Ted Danson, probably.
Yeah.
A4 plate. This looks over.
It does just look over, yeah. Bishop a6, d6 check kind of wins, and fe4 loses even faster. So you really don't have You can maybe go rook a8 here, just all the way so that the other rook has squares. After bishop b4, you can play rook fb8, but I mean, if you have to make those moves,
are you happy though?
Yeah, it's just this doesn't look very, very attractive. Yeah, or bishop e6 also doesn't look horrible.
Also doesn't look bad. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And also, I'm sure everybody cares deeply on the topic of the history of the Grunfeld as an opening. It was kind of remarkable how quickly they started playing things which are very fashionable now. For instance, the Alekhine-Boголюbov match featured quite a bit of g6 f3. Which, I mean, once again, in 1920s, I think you're supposed to, as I understand, like the approach to openings there, like, why aren't you satisfied with knight c3 and just having the center? But no, they very, very quickly started playing things which are very hyper modern and very, very aggressively pushing for the maximum.
Also, Yechin in particular, no, as a 1d4 and then going for the kill player, feels very, very modern. Like to look at some of these games for this series and all the World Championship matches, and Yechin with white just playing d4 and pushing main lines, it very much looks like a modern top player.
Absolutely, yeah.
Very impressive.
He was very much ahead of his time in that respect, at least. Yeah, a4 does seem, returning to the actual Grunfeld on the board and not the history of the opening. This looks just dead and buried for MVL. So we probably should switch to the other one, in which Andrei can play bishop e7, which is kind of similar to h6, I assume. But considering rook g3 is coming...
h6, we're not concerned about h6? Still
we are somewhat concerned about h6 as well, yeah. I guess you kind of have to play g6 here.
g6.
Which is ugly, yeah. You get the feeling he is maybe hoping something like gh, rook h6, c4 works, right?
Yeah.
Because we... Even though even here we can go knight e4, right? We're not forced to take on h6. Because I thought it blunders the queen, but it doesn't. Because, we have f2, f4 there. Yeah, this looks double-edged. This looks like sort of the... Unless we're getting mated somehow on the king side, which I don't quite see how. This looks very double-edged.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, knight e4 still exists because after takes, bishop g5 does not win the queen. And white should generally be quite happy with the fact that the h file got opened, because we now have a very clear-cut plan of attacking the black king. Didn't we all agree that Alekhine was a putzer, says Snitor? No. Define we. Also just no. What is the correct way to pronounce Alekhine? I think it's the one I'm using, but it's been argued very much in the Russian... Well, I mean, not very much, but it's been argued in the Russian chess circles. And there's also a somewhat kind of a cringy, funny clip from what is... I think they basically syndicated Jeopardy. There is a kind of a quiz game on Russian TV called Your Own Game, which is some kind of a bastardized localization of Jeopardy, as I understand it. And they once had a question about Alekhine, and the contestant correctly named Alekhine as the answer, but pronounced it Alekhine. And the host of the show basically mocked him for like a minute, saying every child knows it's Alekhine, and why are you mispronouncing the name of the world champion like this? And considering it's probably correct, it was kind of a stupid, funny moment.
Alekhine never caught on in Russia?
Not particularly, no. And the thing is, like, intuitively, for Russian speakers, intuitively you think it's Alekhine. But I think there are still sort of, at least at some point, there were still survivors who played against him who knew how he felt about it. And he apparently would get very upset when this is how people pronounce his name, and he would say that I'm not Alyocha, because Alyocha is one of those diminutives for the name Alexei, and he was probably not a huge fan of people, using his name as a diminutive. And considering he was not, by all accounts, a very nice man, you kind of are likely to, I don't know if that's maybe overstating it a little bit, but like the stories made it sound like he was maybe, perhaps he would give a mild slap to people who mispronounce his name that way.
The D pawn has arrived on D7.
Yeah, rook B8
hanging in there, but
yeah, I don't know what the supposed reply to bishop b4 is here. Feels like bishop b4 just wins everything.
Nashvillian chess is saying now pronounce Pirts. It's Pirts.
Yes, there you go.
I guess wrong here.
Yeah, bishop b4 I think is an attempt to win more material. Yeah, and that's what he plays. I guess MVL wants to go bishop b5. I mean, once is a strong word, but like bishop b5 doesn't make you resign immediately. But after bishop f8, bishop c7, bishop b7, you have to spend a tempo on something like king g7 or h5 over there, and white goes e5 here, or king d2 first. Yeah, but like e5 is. Yeah, there's just not very much to discuss here. It feels like.
Why don't you resign, sir?
Yeah, this does look kind of bad. Yeah, bishop b5 played. There might be a cleaner solution here as well, but yeah, I don't know if we actually need to look for a cleaner solution. That looks plenty clean. Maybe bishop c5 instead of bishop b7, just to win some pawns along the way. Takes, bishop c5, and if you go bishop b5, I want to go f4 and just collect everything.
Yeah, this doesn't look great.
Yeah, none of these things look remotely playable. And Gligerich is pronounced Gligerich. Pretty sure that last sound is just a ch. Yeah, those aren't very difficult. Yeah, bishop b7.
Yeah, I guess king g7, e5 resigns is a like.
Pretty much, yeah. I think this is how it goes. Yeah, you can go. You can try playing b7, b5, and white goes a5, and the rook doesn't get opened. And even if it does, it probably loses. But you can go b5, a5, and resign there.
Can we go wrong here?
I mean, somewhat wrong, maybe, but yeah, very hard to imagine this not winning either. Like f3, bishop b4, rook e1 or whatever, or rook f1.
This looks so clean.
Yeah, just go e5. I mean, here you can actually. I think there's nothing wrong with taking on d8 and going e6, and also just completely win.
This looks playable.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think MVL will play b5 just to check, and Richard quite happily will go a5, bishop a5, king f2, and this is where you resign.
e5 on the board.
Yep. Yeah, very much a Grunfeld disaster here for MVL today, because yeah, it's one of those games where it feels like you make one mistake in the opening and you don't get to play the game, because the opposition just never recovers from that one suboptimal move. It's a bit harsh because like not playing b5 after e5 g5 is one mistake, but I think the position was still salvageable had he not played rook a8. I think the engines weren't giving white such an overwhelming, like if you go something like rook ac8 here and then b5 a5 or rook fc8, I don't know which one is stronger. I think they were still saying that it's obviously better for white, but not the end of the world. But yeah, rook a8 just yeah, he tried to calculate his way out of it by forcing the issue straight away. He didn't want to play a worse endgame slowly. Unfortunately for him, playing it fast just hastened his demise here. Yep. b5 played. I think it's also perfectly reasonable to just ignore it, go like bishop f6 and d6, but I am very much team a5. Just don't let any files be opened which can be used for black to activate the rook. Hang on a second, that allows bishop c4 though. And then maybe you actually do have to calculate. Okay. So we go bishop f6 check. King f8 d6 I think is... Yeah, this is a rook though. And bishop d8 doesn't look very attractive. So I think you have to play king h6 to just completely ignore e6 and play like b takes a4 and pretend there is some perpetual on the queen side. But there probably just isn't, right? I think you can just play like this, like e6 here, ba7. And then just, yeah, e8, and the king runs to g3. Or d2, d3 here, yeah. If you go rook b1, I go king d2 and the game ends. And if you play bishop a5, I run towards the g3 square and the game ends again, right? It's just not fast enough. You don't have enough attackers.
All right, Rapport still has some calculating to do. And I'm reading. Someone blundered?
Yeah, Anish apparently is completely winning here for some reason. Yeah, rook g3 played. And yeah, Dmitry clearly was very unhappy with the structure after knight e4, d4. So he went c4 first. But yeah, after db, dc, bc, seems like he has no moves after b3. b3, b4 apparently gives him a kind of a very, very bad position. He probably means to play something like h6, but once again, knight takes f7 looks crushing, and there might be even something stronger. Yeah, b4 played, and yeah, people marveling at how quickly Anish played all of these moves. They are kind of only moves. The bigger question is, what is Dmitry planning to do here, because it just kind of looks bad.
And it's completely winning according to...
Yeah, it's
them bars.
Yeah, the bars are unimpressed. Yeah, if knight 6, I guess it's just knight e4, really. And there's just no defense against knight d6 check, right? Knight before knight d6, and we just crash through. There is c3 here, or knight a2 and c3. Probably c3 immediately, because here maybe I can make some kind of a quiet move like queen g5, so maybe c3 here. Even this though, like dc7, cd, rook d2, and then I take on g7 also kind of looks lost. Or h6 next move. And get the pawn to g7. Just a kind of a curious piece of calculation by Dmitry, because he clearly has something in mind here. I just can't figure out what it is. Knight b3 check, we take, we play rook c3, and it all runs out, right? I don't see any follow-up whatsoever. Immediate c3 doesn't make any sense. h6. I mean, knight f7 is strong, but you can also just go knight h3, I suppose. c3, rook c3 also doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It's just difficult to figure out why he plays h6. Yeah, this I can understand. So if knight f7, king f7, ba, how bad is this? Maybe somehow not that bad. Maybe you can like play bishop d5, rook b8, something along those lines. It looks like we're getting mated on the king side, but maybe we aren't, because the bishop on f1 is very restricted, and we can go like, it will be very, very ugly, but we can go like, if we're given a check, we will put the king on g8 and play rook h7, protect the pawn on g7 that way, and say, yes, it looks unbelievably unattractive, but you also don't have any more attackers.
Yeah, the bars are on strike. White is winning in both positions. I'm not sure what they're doing. Must be a display thing. Because, yeah, they should be showing plenty of white.
Yeah. Seems like basically the polarization of the evaluation just gets flipped. It's not it's not the lines themselves. It's just that the evaluation randomly switches from being like +4 to -4. So it which is a funny bug to encounter. I don't think we've seen anything like this before, but there's a new bug born every minute.
I don't know. Knight h3. This is
supposedly the solution.
Crushing.
Yeah. Why is
not a move you love to play?
Yeah. Why is knight c6 so bad here?
I don't know.
Are we just taking on g7 or something, or playing f4 and everything collapses, or like why is this? Because I do see the evaluation on my screen and it says black might as well resign, but why?
Your move, sir.
I guess it is just bishop takes c4, right? And if knight b4, we take on d7, and we go rook c3, and black loses every single material. All of them materials are being lost here.
And ddc7 saying knight f3 is forced, knight e4 hangs, and knight f3 blocks the rook. Yeah, knight f7 is.
Yeah, this is what we were discussing. Knight f7 is clearly the second move. Yeah. And knight f7 does give white at least some advantage, once again, judging by what I'm seeing, but just not enough advantage.
Anish does have time. He probably will be able to figure out that this just works. Although, I don't know, it's a scary thing to retreat the knight that you wanted great things for. The other game, bishop f6, check, king f8 on the board.
So I guess he wants d6, bishop d8. He didn't really want to go down in flames, but give a couple of checks. So he will play this position. But yeah, this position is not very attractive.
Yeah, e6 played.
Yeah. Most things probably win here, but I guess you just take
this.
Yeah,
don't done quitting yet. You need some patience here, no? Like,
yeah, it will get blockaded, but yeah. You do know you're winning, but you will have to.
And no, Rapport goes bishop e5. He's probably spotted something.
Yeah, this was my other version. Yeah, rook b6. I guess you go. Just continue taking stuff like bishop takes d4 here. Yeah, just continue calmly acquiring more material. Yeah, rook c6, king d2, and I don't know if we need king d2, but it looks like a nice move to make. Yeah, still ongoing, but feels like kind of last throws. And Richie also has 25 minutes here for the remaining 10 moves in the position, which you assume is completely winning in more than one way. So yeah, and we'll have to win on demand with the white pieces tomorrow. Like the old style Richie, you would say, probably gives you a chance, right? But these days he plays very mainstream stuff, and
very capable of playing the Petrov or the Berlin and saying,
yeah, here's just
show me the money.
Absolutely. Yeah, even the immediate a takes b5 here is completely playable, because black can at no point allow bishop c5 checks, or rook c1, rook h1 just allows white to queen the pawn. Bishop c5 just ends the game here, followed by 7. So yeah, you can start with AB and then make some kind of a move, but not playing king d2 with tempo here feels weird. Like, there has to be a specific reason not to do that. I think I found something there. Let's say king d2, bishop c4, I go AB, black goes rook takes bishop c5 check again. I wanted to go rook e6, bishop c4, rook d6. I'd also lose this to king e3. It doesn't work from any side. The only way to make it work would be this. Yeah, king c3 and then king d3, bishop b6, and you might actually fail to win this, but pretty much any other move. Knight of 7 played by Anish, by the way. Anish did not.
Yeah, there's knight h3. He didn't like the look of it.
Yeah.
And we have a fight.
Yeah, this is now very much back on the menu, because yes, white is better, but white is not so much better here that.
Or as Ben Pampiner puts it, Anish blunder +3. Sometimes it really feels like they can't even read the first line.
Yeah. Knight of 7, king of 7 played. Somewhat surprisingly, queen takes d7 is a move you can make in this position. I've been informed.
Have you been?
I don't know how obvious it is from in game. Like I've been informed of that obviously by the robot overlords who are quite good at things, but yeah, b8. I thought it was a move you kind of don't even consider. Like your piece down, and the move that doesn't win the piece back and offers a queen trade is not going to be a very obvious option. BA played.
Who's better and why now? BA bishop d5. This is the position we had.
Yeah, it's very, very sharp.
And Drakin, he will be thrilled that this is the position he got.
Yeah, very much. Another miraculous comeback on the cards here, considering he won a -6 position to win the group outright. Was on the verge of being eliminated even from the playoffs. I mean,
against Bakro, he was in real big trouble 2 days ago. Now he could very well win this as well. Like you can.
Yeah, it's
see this going badly for white very quickly.
Yeah, it's definitely a position you can misplay to such an extent that black starts having very realistic winning chances. Having said all that, the queen f4, king g8 allows mate, I think, because rook d5, rook g7 might. Although rook d5, bishop g5 exists, right? e5, rook g7 is, I think, straight up mate, because queen f7 is even after c3, we only need the queen there to give mate, which is kind of useful and also a bit unusual. Bishop d5 play. So I suspect you might have to play king e8. Although, this or this. Yeah, how bad is this? This is completely unclear as well. Yeah, I don't know. Rook g5, hg, queen g5, but black isn't even forced to play e takes d5. You can play c3. I can very easily imagine this being completely lost for white, to be honest. Yeah, queen f4 played. Now a very big decision for Dmitry. Because I think, for your sanity's sake, you would like to play king g8 and not lose the g7 pawn, but you have to be very certain it works.
How's this line? Rook f8 too?
Yeah, and then rook f8 and you threaten c3, and it might easily be playable. Weirdly, it might actually be a very legitimate choice.
Can do.
Yeah, takes queen h4, check, king goes. You play like bishop c3 here. You're probably better here with white, but the game very much continues.
This feels nicely stable, at least from white's perspective.
Yeah, this is a very, very nice setup that I think you should be kind of aiming for as much as you can. But still, like I play queen c5 here, and both a3 and f2 are hanging, right? So
bishop b4.
F2. You mean blundering mate in 1 will not help my cause very much, yeah.
Nope.
Blundering mate in 1 is to be avoided.
So, Andreikin, 11 minutes, big decision to be made. King g8.
Yeah, I still don't know why this loses.
We take here first. No, bishop g5 still.
Then bishop g5 will be even stronger. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Yeah. So, okay, rook g5 completely forced. And frankly, even, I mean, you can play queen takes c4 here, but maybe you're not even that much worse with white, but like you never do this. Rook d7, rook h5, like it's some kind of a mess. We do take on a7, we're probably not worse with white, but...
But still an admission that things haven't gone.
Yeah, no, I think it's very, very difficult to play like this. Yeah, you just kind of stop yourself and don't calculate any further at some point. Like you reach the point where you're supposed to play queen takes c4 and you stop and you say, nah, this is wrong, I have to go back and calculate something else. Looks like, okay, no, yeah. He has gone king g8. Has gone king g8. For a second there, some kind of a parse error flashed on my screen and I thought for a second they agreed to draw, but they can't. It's not move 30 yet.
Move 22. Not a lot of time for either player left here.
Yeah, 24 minutes.
What are the alternatives? Rook d5 we've been staring at.
Yeah, queen g4, rook h7 feels empty, right? Because the bishop never reaches d3 here.
We can wait for c3.
Yeah, we can play. But once again, how happy are we with this? I could legitimately like make some kind of an argument for playing bishop c3, bishop takes a3, king g2, but it's not going to be a very attractive argument. In some ways, the king on d2 is actually safer than it was on c1 with the c-pawn not blocked, but why am I supposed to be better here with white is absolutely like, probably not, probably white pick black, I don't know, queen c5, rook f8, yeah, exactly, bishop b4 threats, yeah, I just don't like it. It's a bit of a panicky reaction because c4, c3 is not a threat yet. If anything is hanging, it's the pawn on a5, but the pawn on a5 is not as important. Maybe we go, no, that also doesn't work. Does it? Queen g4, rook h7, rook d5 there? Nah, can't work, right? e5, e6, but you have bishop g5 check and I have to actually play king b1. And I have no real threat, so black will find something to do. Yeah, can't believe in that. Yeah, something like rook b8, or it's just not going to be fast enough. Yeah.
"24 minutes for Giri."
Yeah, Richie did not play king d2, so we have the same position with the king going to f2 and it is black to move. Black can spend a tempo on very efficiently blocking everything with king e7. It actually does look like you might have to work a little bit now, right? Because if you also allow bishop c4 here, your pawns might be in legitimate danger of dropping.
Check.
Bishop b3 is, yeah, bishop b6 never holds. In fact, bishop b6 loses on this. Bishop b6 loses on the spot. Takes rook d1, and you're not in time to. I mean, here you are in time to play rook b8, but you're never saving this position, I guess. The a pawn gets to a4, maybe even a3, but then it stops because you can't really include the rook in the push.
Stop it if you want to.
Yeah, or that. Well, you have allowed bishop takes d7. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know how great that was. Yeah. But the issue is that just go bishop like king e3, a5, bishop a2 or something, and even if it gets to a3, I really don't know what it gives black. And eventually I will open something on the kings, like I'll go king f4, king e5, g4, and eventually a file will get opened, and the rook will get to that file, and the game will end. It does feel like maybe this is not the fastest way to win the position that Ricci had, but he's still a heavy favorite. And also, I think after king e7, we can take on a7. Like, this is maybe the most painful issue for black, is that I think there's probably enough time to just do this. Rook c3 right on rook b1. Yeah, king e7 played. I think we just kind of grab it to make all of these endgames completely hopeless. And bishop c4 runs into rook c1. I mean, bishop a7, The problem, if there is a problem, would have been the move bishop c4. But I think it loses to rook c1 on the spot, right? It's just... there are no tactics. I mean, yeah. Okay. Yeah, bishop b6, yeah. With the pawns on f6, g7, and h6, this might require work, right? But with the pawns on the dark squares, you're just completely and utterly hopeless here, right?
Still, as long as the game continues without white winning, the minister, no, what's it? The French School of Suffering might still.
He's definitely going to continue to fight. He now has like a small percentage chance of actually saving the game, which at a certain point felt like a complete improbability, but.
Yeah, Rapport taking a moment here. He has plenty of time though. He has 70 minutes, his move 33. So yeah, it's hard to imagine him getting into time trouble or not making it to move 40 with a winning position.
Yeah.
Yep. I think on the other hand, anything could happen.
Yeah, we're being told by chat that the strongest currently is queen g4, rook h7, bishop e2, which I would suggest is borderline unplayable, because even if it like creates a long-term idea of bishop f3, which is the only way I can understand why bishop e2 is at all useful here. Like, who allows queen takes a5 with the threat of c3 here? It really feels like what you're doing is like order of magnitude slower than what black is doing.
What's the point? You have some tactic.
I have no idea. I have no idea. Chad did suggest that, yeah, like queen a5, rook c3, and then bishop d3 is a threat. No, I mean, no.
Good luck.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just completely impossible.
No, here anything could happen.
Absolutely, yeah. And he is absolutely right to still be thinking here, even though it's already is a reasonably heavy investment in terms of the percentage of remaining time. He's been thinking for 7 minutes, which is more than a quarter of his remaining time already used, and he hasn't made a move yet. But it's a very difficult position. He needs to figure out what to do. And if that is what you're supposed to do, yeah, good luck. I really don't think this is realistic. Was knight h3 findable? I think knight h3 was findable. I think maybe he overrated just how good this position is, because
that's an ugly move. But if this position, this he can calculate. No,
yeah, I think this was manageable. You just have to be very certain that like neither knight before nor knight e5 in that position work. But those are very direct calculations, and they go very, very simply. Yeah, here we take go queen d7, rook c3, and the other one we go takes queen d7, queen b7. And black does have one check, but one check is not going to achieve very, very much. Yeah, it's just basically a safe full piece here. Queen e1, queen d2, king d2, and then we go bishop d3, and the game is basically over. Yeah. And you can never take on c4 because you get mated along the back rank. Anish is too stylish to play knight h3. Yeah, I mean, it sounds silly, but your brain sort of immediately assigns like a negative weight to a move like that, and then you basically have to calculate through it. Because it definitely will be telling you, no, this is not correct. You've been attacking the entire game. Why are you moving backwards? You should be sacrificing something. My initial first reaction was also very much knight takes f7.
No. Both white players taking their time here. Rapport, I still think he's a giant favorite to win, but it's annoying if you've been completely winning for, I don't know, 10 moves now and you haven't managed to to wrap it up, not saying he's done anything wrong, he probably hasn't, but the longer the game goes, the more restless you can get about the game going on.
You feel like you should already be home preparing for the black game, and you're still there playing. But I think, like, if my calculations are correct, and if you can take on a7, taking on a7 just secures everything. Like, you, from that moment on, it's very difficult to imagine how you don't win. And I've been trying to figure out what I could, maybe, this is what I could have blundered. Rook c3, rook b1, bishop c4. Yeah, bishop b6 here, yeah.
Still looks pretty good, no?
Yeah, still looks pretty decent. Yeah, specifically because bishop b6 exists, though, because otherwise I wasn't very sure anymore. Yeah, he's gone bishop b3. Our assumption is bishop b6 might have to be the only move, because allowing bishop g5 check doesn't look like it's a recipe for success. Yeah, bishop b6 played. Maybe rook d1 straight away.
Not allowing any rook b8 business.
Yeah, that might be end of game as well, right? Just not letting the rook return to the.
This is resigns, no?
Looks to me like it is. Yeah, I'm kind of struggling to. Yeah, rook d1 played. Yeah, I don't see any follow.
Yeah, he's calculated this.
Yeah, this is pretty clean. Yeah, and it's just as you said, like it's good to put this to bed as early as possible, because you really don't want this game to drag on. Yeah. Over. And in the meantime, Anish actually took on d5, which we couldn't make work.
Yeah. Rook d5, bishop g5 on the board.
Yeah.
Now you have Maxime to resign, so we can probably focus on this.
Yeah, I think we should be looking at this. Yeah, rook g5 hg will happen. Because what else do you play?
This was not good.
Yeah, this doesn't really work out.
So bishop g5 forced. Maxime still makes moves, but
well, yeah, he hasn't. He can put something on d3 there. Yeah, I didn't realize there's still something to play for here, but not a lot. Yeah, bishop d3 or. Bishop d3, I assume something like bishop c2 is just completely winning, right? And if you go rook d3, I can take, and play bishop a4. Or king e5 first, but like bishop a4 and then king e5, and then... the threat will be g8, king d8, king f6, and then e6, e7 is a full queen with the bishop on a4, which is why I like it so much. Oh, let's play bishop a4 first, because here we have bishop b5, and it probably still wins, but yeah, with the bishop on a4, it wins more. Yeah, you have to take on e6, but then it's not a very, very difficult conversion. And Anish went queen d4 instead of queen takes c4, which, I was wondering about this move, or maybe queen e4. My question is, are we better after c3? But I guess he wants to take with the bishop. This is a clever move. c3, I'm pretty sure he's not planning to play bishop a1 or any of that stuff. He wants to just go bishop takes c3 and say, you can either take on d5 or you can take on c3 twice, and I will take on d7. And in this endgame, white actually looks like he is much better, because the bishop will be very, very strong on d3. And the pawn on a7 still falls. Like here I can take on a7 even. Rook h1, king b2. This looks like it's winning for white. MVL resigned in the meantime, so we don't have to return to that anymore.
No surprise there. Rapport. Going up 1-0, only needs to draw tomorrow to make it to the finals. And well, we talked earlier that just making the finals might not even be enough to making a favorite to qualify. But it's still the best result he could get.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the result was wrong there, no? It was Rapport won.
Yeah.
So queen d4 if I take?
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Like, just go takes and king f8, or king, maybe even king h7 actually. King f8, bishop c3 I kind of dislike. Hang on, queen c6? It is an annoying check from before, but I can put the king on e8 and claim that we are safe-ish.
Yeah, he did take.
Yeah. King h7, king g8 being the other option there, because once again, the bishop on f1 does not have access to the d3 square. But I think if we can play king f8, we probably prefer to play king f8 too. Yeah.
Also, black could win after king f8, well, king h7.
Yeah, king h7 is a draw.
Repetition.
Yeah, king h7 is a draw offer, and this isn't, so. Yeah, very unusual material disbalance here, with white being 2 exchanges down. After king f8, can we play e6? No, I guess d takes e6 and then c3 is very safe. White might have a perpetual, but you are very much hoping you have a perpetual there, with the bishop completely locked out. 15 against 8 for whatever it is, 14 moves. Not as horrible a time trouble as it could have been, I think. Yeah, this is...
There was still plenty of potential excitement now, especially if we get this king f8, bishop c3. How does this line go? Queen c6,
yeah.
Check.
Check, king e8, yeah. You don't have particularly attractive squares, and h5 is hanging. Yeah, you can very easily lose this with white. We take, yeah, bishop e2, rook h4 or something. Yeah. And then c3 and rook h1 will become a huge, huge threat. Yeah, it's very, very losable for Anish now.
I'll be right back.
Sure. Let's see if I can... there you go. So the current position is this. Dmitry is still thinking we're, because we're sort of impartial here, and we would very much like for this game to continue. It's a very, very fun position to watch. We're very much team king f8 here, but king h7 is not stupid, because you generally, you would like to consolidate by playing rook hf8 and putting the king on h8, where it probably will be reasonably okay for the time being. In this position, h5 is hanging, so white might actually have to give this perpetual. And yes, as the liquidator is saying, this looks scary for black optically. It does look very scary for black optically, but I think it is possible to realize that specifically this plan, which I thought was by far the most dangerous plan that white has in this position, doesn't really do very much because of just how safe this setup is. Queen c6 is a very important move here, covering not only the immediate checks, but also all the squares that can be used for giving checks later, like covering the g6 square is a very, very relevant thing here. Yeah, it's absolutely anybody's position right now. Dmitry does have 5 minutes left though, and let's say if he thinks that he probably isn't better and king h7 might actually end the game in a perpetual, I think it will be very hard to, begrudge him offering a draw here. But if he probably does have a decent idea that this is now let me relinquish control there. He probably does have a decent idea that he, for the first time in today's game, he has realistic winning chances, and generally the game has, for Anish, basically he definitely lost control. He might still be completely fine, but he is not in control of it as he was, I think, for the first half of it. If you had more time, I'm pretty sure Dmitry would have continued here. On 5 minutes, maybe you offer a draw, but no, yeah, king f8 is on the board.
And we see
the
pattern repeating itself a bit from the Belgrade game. He's not always on the computer's good side, but he keeps making it difficult and keeps, the position messy enough that things could happen. In the Belgrade game, arguably less so, he got luckier there that Etienne didn't finish him off. But there's no doubt that Andreikin is just a fantastically strong, practical player.
Yeah, absolutely. That's always been his major strength, level-headedness, very decent self-control in tight spots, and yeah, just very solid in time troubles, very good calculator. Not an easy player to play against. Also, I think very, very unafraid. Just generally, I haven't really spoken to him much. I don't know him very much as a person, but he strikes me as somebody who doesn't really get attacks of nerves very often, or fears any opponent necessarily. He just has this kind of quiet confidence in his chess skills and plays accordingly.
Must be nice.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, yeah. I'm saying those words and I'm intensely jealous. A4 here, I think A4 is very similar in strength to bishop c3, and I probably prefer bishop c3 because it kind of keeps a tighter control on the position. Black probably plays queen c6 anyway, regardless. So yeah, if choosing between those two, I'm choosing bishop c3. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think A4 is not an improvement. I was talking about Andrejk in Svartal. Yeah, something like queen d1 here and game continues, but game continues is not always a compliment, like rook h6 and then queen e4 or something. Rook h6 is a good starting move here to cover some more squares, make it easier for the queen to leave the c6 square, because we no longer have to worry about queen d6, for instance. And the bishop on f1 still will take some time to get to any square that makes any sense. Like, I just don't know. I think, like, it looks like a mess, but black does have 2 rooks for 2 bishops. Has to count for something. What happened to Andrejkin's bishops? They were taken.
But they got rooks. Here they are. Now they're gone.
Now they're gone, yeah. Yeah, it is an amazing position. It is really a position very much unlike what you normally get with all the doubled A pawns and the doubled G pawns and the 2 rooks against 2 bishops, which is very, very rare material imbalance. Was that a good sacrifice? Machine really disagrees with it. Machine chose some absolutely unplayable lines and says, as I understand it, white is better instead of all of this madness. But the lines it was suggesting you're supposed to play are, I mean, as impossible to even consider as they come, I think.
Which lines are those?
I mean, the bishop e2 rook c3, for instance, with the bishop d3 threat. Like, yeah, after move 23, we go queen g4.
Yeah, but that's no sacrifice needed. No. Instead of knight f7, computer says knight h3 and white is winning. After knight f7, it gives rough equality, but the main line being very, very hard to find for white. Here, and whatever this
yeah, well, Chad was suggesting to us bishop e2, queen takes a5, rook c3 here with the intention of playing bishop d3 because there is now a weakness along the c file. The rook on c8 is potentially hanging. Yeah, I don't actually know the evaluation. I kind of assumed it gives white an advantage. Maybe that's not even true. But yeah, like bishop e2, rook c3 is just not a sequence. You can make them move by move. You can just decide I need this bishop in play. And after queen takes a5, you can look at the position again and think c4, c3 is a huge threat. I have to do something, so I will play rook c3 just to stop it. And hooray, I have an additional idea of bishop e2, d3. Like, you can stumble upon it by accident, but seeing it from afar.
And this looks rough.
Yeah, seeing it from afar, seeing the entire sequence from afar, and believing yourself that this is good is very, very difficult to imagine.
Oof.
Yeah.
Checking the chat. And looks like we'll never get past the Geary draw jokes, no? Even when he plays an incredibly sharp game with white, which he might have messed up and might now be worse. There's still
it's just
the artist because he likes to draw 50%. I mean, it will never stop.
Yeah. Can't stop, won't stop. Or so the chat is saying on this topic, clearly. Come on, Winish, says Winish. Yeah. Make a move at least so that we can deal in practicalities again against instead of all the general purpose BS that we've been forced to.
Yeah, the debate is still how tough this knight h3 was. It's understandable that he didn't want to play it. With hindsight, and I'm sure once he gets shown this, or maybe he already realized, he'll surely be upset. Like, I don't think calculation-wise it was that hard. It's just, someone said he's too cultured to play knight h3, which there's some truth to it.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, he doesn't even have a bailout anymore. Like you can give a check from f3, but it doesn't remotely look like you're going to be giving a perpetual anywhere. You might be driving the king to better squares by doing it.
Playman is saying, so is the engine just wrong in favor of unbreaking? No, why would it be wrong?
Yeah, I've been avoiding the lure of the engine for a bit, but I will actually check. Yeah, slightly better for black bishop c3 first line. I'll switch it back off. Yeah, it is the move your hand kind of wants to make the most here. Stops c4 c3, creates a legitimately strong threat of bishop b4 check. So unsurprising, but also queen c6, as we've expected, is a very good reply, and there is no immediate good follow-up. You just have to play slowly, I suppose. I don't know what the best sequence even is there. We might not actually want to give this check, right? But
yeah, to not allow c3. But okay.
I was wondering
if to cover the pawns, so queen d4.
I was wondering if we can play queen d4.
Takes.
Hope to play e6 and hope that it does something. But my problem is queen takes e6 and then king e8, and we once again have no checks. It's just bizarre how well everything is controlled when the bishop on f1 is just not participating. Yeah, it seems to be just losing, right? Rook h1 is coming next move and everything will collapse. Do you get extra points for deciding the matches in classical? Not as far as I know.
I don't think so.
Yeah. And let's say tying the group and then losing the tiebreak in the group also doesn't give you more than the normal.
Question about e6 here, but then c3. Yeah,
I thought d takes e6 first was even stronger.
Take first.
Yeah, I thought not even allowing any calculations. Yeah, d and then c3 if you're not giving a check. Yeah, looks horrible. Like maybe you have a perpetual, but I wouldn't really be. You did in prior Grand Prix, but not this year. Says the chat, the all-knowing chat, and yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, that you just get straight points for progressing further, and how you got there is irrelevant. And the clocks have basically equalized themselves. He's played bishop d4. Which is, it was suggested in chat as a way to perhaps disincentivize queen c6 because we can take. I mean, we will be forced to take because the queens can't really be kept on the board. But we'll take on a7,
so
which is kind of relevant. Rook h5, bishop b2, I guess. And we have some passers on the a file.
We have rooks.
Yeah, we do have rooks from Looks scary, but maybe we can play. Actually, both moves don't appear to be losing, at least not immediately. Even king b2, king b3, king a4 doesn't appear to be losing. It looks very weird, but I think it's safe enough on a4, surprisingly. And now I want to play like bishop e3, a6, a7. Such a strange position. But black is also not obliged to play queen c6 even. I can start with rook h6 in the current position, and perhaps queen c6 will become stronger later.
Draken down to 4 minutes though.
Yeah, and Mathematic in the Chess24 chat brings up a relevant point for sort of the full Grand Prix, not for any particular leg, but if people are tied on the same amount of points by the end of everything, the amount of classical points you've scored in your two legs actually does count, but that's still very, very far away from where we are right now. Yeah, queen 6 played, I think. Yeah, it's a very normal practical decision, like getting queens off when your two exchanges up is never going to be a horrible mistake.
Never?
Well, pretty much never, yeah. We ever play like g4 here or bishop e2 or something along those lines?
When we what? Here,
G4 here, and then bishop g2 if a6. I don't know. Feels strange. He's gone bishop e2, which is a kind of a similar idea actually, but without g4. Huh. I'm pretty sure both of them would be really enjoying this game if there wasn't so much riding on it, because it definitely is like one of the more unusual games within 227 plus 100 players I've seen in a long time. And I think
I don't think Anish loves losing control like that and having a messy fight where he can lose even if there's not that much at stake in a classic.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe I'm projecting there a little bit because I really like absolutely mad messy games when I can get them.
So if you were playing this game right now and there was less at stake with either color, you'd just be enjoying the beauty of the struggle and not hating yourself for something that happened along the way.
Both are possible. Like they're not entirely mutually exclusive. Somewhat mutually exclusive, but not entirely.
Gotcha. Bishop e2 played.
You kind of very much want to play a6, but you have to have a good reply to. Like what I'm currently looking at is playing a6 and then leaving the rook on c6. Like bishop f3 and we just go king e7 here or something. Takes, g4, I don't know, maybe even g6, hg, rook g8 or something. Maybe that's unnecessary, but... Or king e6, d5 first, and then something, yeah. Anish doesn't even attack the rook on c6, yeah, he goes king d2.
He's not worried about anything.
Very...
He's just saying bishops
as
well as rooks.
Pretty much, yeah. We should at least attempt to count the pawns once, right? We have 2 pawns for the two exchanges. So we are what?
Factor.
7 plus 2 against. So we are basically down a pawn by your system, right?
2 pawns, no?
How?
3.5. Yeah. Probably it's 1 pawn. Sounds about right too.
Mm-hmm.
So bishop 3.5, pawn is 1, rook is 5. That means white is pawn down. Although maybe we have to give a discount for... No, both sides have double pawns and shattered pawns. Pawn down is fair. What's odd is that we don't seem to mind giving these 1.5 pawns on c6.
Yeah, I'm not sure how correct that actually is, but breaking up the pair, in particular if we pick up on h5 and we centralize the king in the process, would be at least one of the options I would very seriously consider somewhere around here. Yeah, after king e7, like if you continue ignoring everything, black will just play g6. No, I'm not sure about g6. The pawn on c4 is important. So we could maybe continue waiting. We could play something like king c3 here and, well, not waiting exactly, but continue improving without really attacking anything, because c4 is not hanging as such.
AKA Theory is saying, so what's the dynamic here? Is Giri just trying to hold on, or does he try to press? I would think he's trying to survive.
Yeah, I think no matter how broken up the structure is, he doesn't have the passers yet, and he is 2 exchanges down. So, I mean, if Dmitry makes some kind of a miscalculation and white suddenly improves dramatically, then maybe. But now that he hasn't taken on a7, I just don't see like what needs to happen in the position for white to suddenly start feeling that they're playing for a win. Yeah, I think you're basically trying to set up some kind of a, well, not fortress, the position is too messy for that, but some kind of a situation where the bishops do generate enough play to compensate for the lost material. How do we approach this with black? We kind of need to activate that other rook, but I don't quite know via which squares. F8, F4, but that doesn't do very much, and white could also just play G3, for instance, and stop it. Rook B8, I think that probably gets met by bishop B6, but I'm not even sure about that. I think maybe rook B8, B5 can be allowed. I'm not sure how much of a threat that is. So yeah, still a very, very strange and difficult position to play for both sides. Would it be lost if the two bishops were 2 knights? Most likely, yeah. Obviously, depending on where they are, but yeah, you kind of want the bishop pair here. Rook B8 played, so we'll find out what Anish thinks about the quote-unquote threat of Rook B5. We can go Bishop F3 now, I suppose.
Oh.
Yeah, now I will probably play Bishop B6, right? Try to lock everything down.
King E6, King D4?
Even King D4 and then Bishop G4 check, or the immediate Bishop G4 check even. I don't think that's so horrible. Like Bishop G4, take on D7, take on C4. We've gained something, I think, with white. Like we've removed some pawns and made some progress. I don't know. I am very much struggling to get any kind of a bearing on this position. So difficult to figure out what we're aiming for with either color.
And Faku is coming back from the gym, but his hair does not look great. Did you put product into it?
Yeah, that may have been the mistake. You must trust in the heart of the hair.
If you're just joining or returning from the gym, Richard Rapport has won the first game with the white piece against Maxim Vashila Graf, where Maxim got crushed out of the opening in the Grunfeld. Probably somewhat surprised by this move, Rook C3. And after E5, D5, he did not play the Peter Svidler recommended pawn to B5. As I went knight D4. And it was sort of an uphill battle from here, but apparently the final mistake already was his move Rook A8, after which computers really, really dislike black's position. And after F5, Rook C7.
F5, Rook C7 is just completely over. Yeah, you could have prolonged the suffering without F5, but yeah, this is just completely dead.
Rapport maybe didn't find the quickest way, but he never gave MVL another chance. I don't know, the game ended here after King F4. So nice victory for Richard Rapport. And Maxim will need to win on demand tomorrow, bringing big sort of flashbacks. He's had a similar situation in the World Cup where I think he got killed in the opening by Rajabov in a semi-final. Like sometimes these things can happen, but we know how strong he is, in particular with white. So very interesting what's going to happen tomorrow.
A4.
A4. Pawns never move back, Anish, but he wants.
Yeah, he wants to stop
Stop
rook
rook
b5,
b5.
and he says, I'm not worried about rook b1, so. No. And England have taken a wicket, which is very cheerful news from the Caribbean. Yeah, I mean, the continuous playing as if being 2 exchanges down is absolutely irrelevant. Kind of a minor detail here. Not forcing the issue in any way. Is he planning to just take on c4 here or something? Rook b1 played as expected. It is like you do need.
At some point we return one of the exchanges, no?
Yeah, something like
position like this.
Yeah. And yeah, White is very much fighting for a draw there.
Yeah. I don't like bishop c4.
Yeah, bishop c4 doesn't look right. Bishop f3, I guess. Because bishop b6 is way too late, like you're no longer really achieving anything. Rook c8, bishop d5, or bishop d5 followed by bishop b3 would be like a dream scenario, maybe.
Okay, go here just to stop your... no, bishop
b7 though, bishop b7 exists, yeah. Such a weird position.
Move of some description.
Such a weird position, yeah. Yeah, you kind of want to like the side, like not like, but you rooting for the underdog here. You keep on thinking maybe the bishops are just controlling too many squares, but every time you try to calculate something here, the rooks are just very strong.
Usually one of the rooks can give itself up for one of the bishops at a crucial moment.
Yeah, bishop f3. We're probably not giving it up on c6. I have a feeling rook c8, your move rook c8 is the move to make here.
And bishop b6, we're being told to threaten bishop b7.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So do we actually give it up here?
Oh, rook b8? No.
No, I mean in a previous position. Just go, I don't know, bishop f3, king e6. Then we're just not better, right? First of all, there's a draw for with bishop g4, and also I think we can take on c6 and c4, and we have 3 pawns for the exchange.
Draw. Whoa. Bishop f3 draw offer. That's surprising.
Nicely done, yeah. Found a good moment too. And I'm absolutely not like I've done this myself. I've had it done to myself, and yeah, you can't really criticize this. The jokes will now start coming in, of course, but it was about as sharp and unusual a game of chess we have seen in a high stakes tournament for quite some time, and results do matter, and I'm pretty sure neither of them really understands who is better here, or to which extent. So
I still expect many of these Androkin jokes we're so used to.
Yeah. And honestly, I have now kind of glanced at the first line, and the first line really does look like it probably ends in a draw. So you can't even really claim that this was very much against.
What's the first line?
Rook c8, queen bishop b6. For some reason, you play rook a1 here. Well, not for some reason, you want the pawn on a4. Yeah, bishop b7, rook b8, bishop c5 check. For some reason, you don't take on a6 first. I have no idea why. King e6, bishop a6, rook a4, bishop b6. Oh no, so bishop d6 now. And then we take on c4, and then they take on c4 and a5. And rook a8 here, and we return the exchange and take on a5. And yes, black is a bit better, but you kind of assume this is probably going to end in a draw somehow. So, yeah, obviously we would very much like continuing to watch this because it's a very fun position, and
it's just rough.
Yeah,
my kids now dinner.
Yeah,
and horrible. That means for tomorrow we have MVL in a must-win situation, And Andreikin, Giri, this is one of these spots where if you're Andreikin, you're wide, you quite like your chance in a tiebreak. How hard do you push it?
I mean, I was going to say he will do something similar to what he did against Bakrov, but actually he went sort of completely all in at some point in that game, so I don't know.
Totally up to you.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the opening approach, I very much expect something very similar, some kind of a quietish line where he has control. The thing is, though, he is
like having a quietish controlled position against Anish without allowing a forced draw, though, no?
Yeah, that is a fair point. Yeah, Anish will not just play a QGA non-forcing-ish line and just play chess. Yeah, I think I've been in that spot with Andreikin myself in the Tromsø World Cup where I lost to him in, I think, the quarterfinals. And yeah, he very, very happily transferred everything over to the tie breaks when opportunity arose and was correct in beating me in the tie breaks. So yeah, probably. I mean, he doesn't just straight up try to make a draw. I think it's a kind of a learned wisdom by this point that if you like a draw, so the two normal approaches are either you do it the way like Magnus did in New York in game 12 or 14, right? 12. Help me out there.
12.
Yeah. So you either actually just show up and trade everything and there is no game, and like 15 minutes into the game there are no pieces left, or you play normally. Like any kind of an in-between thing is wrong. You have to commit to either just playing a game of chess and not really thinking about the draw, or just finding a forced variation which is likely to happen and liquidating and playing a tiebreak next day.
Or do one of the in-between things. But in one of the, if it doesn't work, 1 out of 50, there will be books written about it, and Gurevich short will be brought up constantly. So it's risky.
Yeah, nobody wants that. Well, some people want that, but they aren't.
Anyway, apologies for the delayed start today. It was still a very fun round with 2 very non-standard, exciting games. Richard Rapport looking in good shape. Giri Andreikin still very much all to play for. Tomorrow at the same time, we get the second classical game, and then should the score be 1-1 in one or both of the matches, they will go to tiebreak, and we'll be here to watch it all.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for watching. If you want to improve your chess, support the show, check out chess24.com, where hopefully our video series about the 2021 World Championship match is going to come out any day now with the voucher code Prix 2022. You get 40% off. Thanks for watching.
See you tomorrow.